Hello, hello, hello. We are live. QID is
Mm,
operating on Aryan Standard Time. It's true. It's true. We are all
yes.
affected by each other's company. Abhi to we
हाँ,
have zero viewers. I mean, I hope
हाँ.
people join in. But
एक्सपेक्टेशन हमेशा नेगेटिव ही रहता है, हो जाएगा
हाँ, वो
पॉजिटिव.
रखनी भी चाहिए नेगेटिव. जो
वही
3 लोग
ना.
आ गए एकदम से. We are waiting
Exactly.
for Adithyan to join in.
Hmm.
Hopefully, he's here very soon.
Hmm. We can
Fab.
shoot the shit for a couple of minutes.
Thank you, thank you. हाँ हाँ वो तो करने वाला ही.
Wait, is that
But
a notorious BIG on your shirt or something,
हाँ
dude?
हाँ हाँ हाँ.
Ah, yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
wore it on some other stream also एक बार I think.
No, I didn't notice. I noticed it now. Nice.
But
90s hip hop
hello
fan
hello hello.
represent.
हाँ वो पसंद है ना
Hmm.
तब से.
सर आपको मेरा घर का हालत नहीं पता है ना, मत ही बोलो ये सब.
It's okay. I think starting with the we might do a spoiler free review and
Hmm.
then we'll
We
delve
will
into
get
spoiler
into
territory
yes.
like always. But hello, if you guys are new to this podcast, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We do live streams almost every Monday. I think we skipped last Monday because we were all busy, all of us, and we wanted to
Mm,
do challenges. But we might do challenges on some other episode. I think it is good, definitely going to appear in, um, definitely do going to appear in our best of the year list for sure because both Amartya and I have loved it to
mm.
a very high
A
certain degree.
large high degree, yes.
Um, a very on a higher yeah on the higher side for sure, but
Yes.
there are new episodes on Spotify that have come out. The episode discussing Old Oak and RMN features Dhruv and Sanket. So they're discussing those two films in detail. Please do check it out. If you've seen the film, it'll be nice deep dive into the context of the films, the political situation in which the films are based in, and the films itself, the film form, and everything else. Please do check it out. Please follow us on Spotify. It helps us to reach out to more people. We are now available on YouTube as well. Adityan's here.
Hello,
Hello,
hi.
Adityan. Hello, hello,
Hello,
hello.
hi, Sanjeet.
Hello, hello,
Hi,
hello.
Amartya. Hello,
I'll,
Amartya.
I'll just I'll just finish up that podcast is available on YouTube as well now. So if you want to listen to all the episodes, it's on YouTube Music and YouTube. This is the normal one as well. You can follow Adityan on his Instagram page at Curious Adityan, and he's been doing podcasts recently on Immersive as well. They're back with the new season, so you can please check them out. I shall put the links in the description. I've been asked to put all this in the beginning of the episode rather than later, so that we reach out. Uh, we are available sounds.
Mhm.
Sir, you are
Wait,
okay?
it sounds exactly right. It sounds exactly right. We are available. It sounds exactly right. Take it however you will.
Uh, no,
मत
the
करो
Varun
sir.
Khulasa shall happen sometime later when Varun is here. We shall do
Yes.
it when he's here. But hello, hello, hello. We have a considerable viewership today. So today we are discussing, as the name suggests, Furiosa review, which is the new Mad Max film, a spin-off, let's say that, but it's a different story based in the same realm of the world by George Miller, and we'll do the same. We'll follow the same format of doing initial views, like what we thought of the film, what we felt, and how we ended up watching the film, where did we watch it, blah blah blah, just upar se, so that we don't delve into extreme details but just the basic details. And then once we speak about that, we'll deep dive into our discussion, spoiler perspectives and all that, before which we'll definitely give out a spoiler warning, because I don't think so without a spoiler warning the discussion would be that fruitful. So we'll go Aditya and Amartya, and then I'll go at the end about our views about the film. So hello Aditya, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm great. I'm great. I'm great. Life is going good right now. So good.
Yeah, new episodes coming in. You're doing
Yeah.
weekly episodes or just in a while, like no timeline
In a
as such?
in a while, no timeline for now. Yes,
Okay,
picking up the guests is pretty much a hard task for me, and getting
correct,
their
correct. I think you
dates.
guys shifted into that whole genre of getting filmmakers and more
Yeah, yeah,
guests,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
That
So
way
that must be
Exactly.
a scheduling nightmare, right? That
Yes,
must be.
yes,
for
definitely,
everyone.
definitely. definitely.
Yeah,
I'm taking the biggest leaps right now. So without any
Yeah.
fears, I had, but now overcoming it. So good.
nice,
But it'll
nice.
it'll it'll work out. Don't worry. In the long
Mm.
Yeah,
run,
yeah,
like
yeah.
how it is working out for us in a way, I think.
Exactly.
Because I think
Fingers crossed.
considerable
Fingers crossed.
fingers
It is
crossed, but I
working.
think the viewership has increased in general, so we are
Yeah, yeah,
thankful for
Yeah,
sure
yeah,
for
yeah.
everyone.
Mm.
yeah.
But what did you think about the film, Adityan? When did you watch it? Cinema?
I watched it. I watched in the first day first show cinema, 3:30
Perfect,
p.m.
perfect.
show. 3:30 p.m. was in our city first day first show. So I watched it
Uh-huh.
in PVR.
Hmm.
They renovated, I think so. The sound systems are pretty good compared to the last time I
Nice,
had been there with my friends. So
nice.
they only booked the tickets. They only booked the tickets before itself, and
Yeah,
and honestly, it was a half packed, half occupancy was there for the Furiosa, but
Mm.
sadly only our bunch of six people and another bunch of 10 people, only were truly Mad Max fans down there who really
enthusiast. Yeah,
expected the
yeah.
movie.
Oh,
Others
possible.
were like couples on the corner seats. So pretty
This
much
is one bad movie for couples, man. This is not a good movie for couples, man.
they were like I even saw someone I even put my ears on someone talking saying that Arey yaar, what's this movie? why are why are we took
Okay.
this? So they were waiting for that. So saw some of the comments. They
No,
are
these
not
are
bad.
the
Yes,
no, these are the times you need to ask people these questions. क्या सोच के घुसे थे? What were you thinking?
what did you think?
I mean, in Kanpur, at least LSD2 made sense in that way. I was like, huh, okay,
Yes,
I can expect 20 couples around me.
yes,
That is fine.
yes, yes,
And
yes,
only me and
exactly.
my friend were the only ones watching the film.
So basically, I didn't expect the film to be this. Something like
Hmm.
Edgar Wright once said about the film Ben Hur epic kind of film. I didn't expect to be like
Mm-hmm.
novel approach. I mean something reading like a
Yes.
novel. I expected some Fury Road kind of like sequence driven storytelling, full of sequences, full of adrenaline
Yeah,
rush. But to our surprise, everyone was surprised that it was so focused on the lore, focused on the
correct,
character
correct.
driven, and everything was on building the lore. Basically,
Yeah,
on the word go, they started building the lore instead of like
yeah,
so much of build up. They built a lore in the on the word go, which is something I like, and then they set up the action throughout the second arc, which is
yeah.
something I didn't really expect from a film of this, because I only watched the first trailer of Furiosa, and after that nothing I haven't watched. And
Yeah,
surprise to
same.
my surprise, we were totally blown away, and we were just talking for about 3 hours about the film. After we watched the film, we were just strolling in our tea shop and just talking about the film for 3 hours. Actually, we're just talking about lore, everything. We love the lore so much. We love
Yeah,
basically
Mm-hmm.
our
same,
group
same,
loves
same.
lore revolving films, lore revolving
Yeah,
games. Even we were discussing one time we watched Salar in Netflix, and we were discussing about that for 3 hours because we loved the lore
yeah.
so much of that film. So we
The
love
lore is
lore.
fantastic in that movie.
Amartya and I, we wanted to do that episode as well, which we
Yeah.
didn't do. But that lore was
We.
itself so interesting to discuss, just in
Hmm.
general, because there are so many possibilities that open, and even you are making that, adding to that imagination, right?
Yes, exactly.
Exactly,
Hmm.
So
exactly.
it's
And we
super
and all
interesting
of
that
us,
way.
all of us have played the Mad Max game actually, 2015 game. One of
The
them I
Okay.
played
2005 game,
recently.
right? 2015 game,
15,
right?
15 game
Hmm.
Ambulance
Yeah,
Studios.
yeah.
I played it 2 years ago. One of my friends recently played it. Recently they played it, so we were like discussing about it a lot, and we were so gratified to watch the all
Hmm.
the things we played in the game translating onto the screen. That was something gratifying for a Mad Max fandom actually. So it was truly a gratifying and meditative to say the least. It's something you don't say for a Mad Max
Yeah.
film, but it's meditative of film.
In many ways,
That's
yes. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's it from my initial views.
Okay. Amartya. Before Amartya goes, one second. Varun has something to say to you.
I have been one of those couples. Let's just put it out there. Let's move on now. Shall we? Yeah.
Srilekha, absolutely, you're missing out on something very good.
You're missing out on something good. I'll get into those whether you're missing out on
Haha,
actually
but
something good.
but but
Yeah, but
do you give your initial thoughts now?
so firstly, Furiosa, I finally saw first of all in Kolkata, second of all in an IMAX theater.
Big question: was
Technically,
it the original IMAX?
no, of course not. उसके लिए UK जाना पड़ेगा. Of course not. So, to
So
answer Dhruv question, it's on PC, it's on PlayStation, and it's also on Xbox. जो भी है ढूंढ लो. Yeah, मिल जाएगा. Steam पे मिल जाएगा. So, where was it? So I saw it on
Signal
IMAX.
repair.
Now, whatever retrofitted IMAX it was, whatever it is, the screen was massive and the
okay.
sound was very good. So it's, I mean, overall as a theater experience, it's fantastic. Now, coming
Hmm.
to what the movie is, I think before watching Furiosa, I had only watched Fury Road once. Fury Road 1. So before watching Furiosa, I had rewatched it, I think, 2 hours ago. So every
Okay.
event of the movie was fresh in my brain.
Fresh in your head. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, but I hadn't watched any of the Mad Max movies. So how
Hmm.
it, how it unfolded itself as something entirely different, very much, divided into chapters, very much within its own speed, very much trying to build
Hmm.
up a lore,
Hmm.
you know I think it took me by surprise as well, because like Fury Road was basically like an entire long set piece like event,
Correct. Correct.
connected with very little breathing room. And when there are breathing room,
Yeah.
those times they were important moments. But other than that, Fury Road was one long giant extended chase sequence.
Chase film. Yeah.
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 Here, though, it is very much like a full chapter, a full arc. Like it's basically
Hmm.
like taking an entire backstory of Furiosa and taking all of the choicest moments and then developing that throughout. And through Furiosa and through her life, developing what the wasteland had become, you know,
Hmm.
which was teased in Fury Road. So
Hmm.
I appreciated that a lot. I appreciated how the green place was actually shown, which was hinted at in Fury Road. All of the
Hmm.
stuff that had been hinted at in Fury Road was all touched upon here, by the way. None
Expanded
of
in
those,
general.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, all of those was touched upon, while all of them were also expanded, while newer additions were shown, like the biker horde led by Chris
Yeah.
Hemsworth's character, all of them. And it's
Hmm.
like it's a fascinating world. It's like it's also a
Yeah.
desert planet, it's also a dystopia. Okay, it's a very fascinating, it's a very weird world. But if
Hmm.
you compare it to what Miller's original Mad Max world is, it's much more, I don't know, it's much more heavy metalish. Like the
Hmm.
older Mad Max movies were very like sadomasochists, like very much BDSM vibes,
Also,
with
product of
regards
their
to,
times in a
also
sense.
very
Like
product of their times. It's very 80s, very product of their times. Here, though,
yeah.
like you can understand like how much of an advancement a filmmaker also goes through, as well as technology
True.
also goes through,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
the idiosyncrasy of the original Mad Maxes are still there, right? But those have
Hmm.
just evolved. Those have now become more like self-serious, more, there is a form of aggression in them. There is no
Correct.
luxury. I think it's very aggressive in that regard, which
Hmm.
is fascinating. I think from Fury Road context is very fascinating, but from Furiosa's
Please
context,
touch upon
somewhat,
this a little bit.
somewhat. Yeah, I mean, the original Mad Max definitely. Yeah, I mean,
I
exploitation
think
they
the
were, right?
first part is definitely very exploitation types,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. First
Because
part is
it is a
very.
revenge film, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Yes.
Hmm.
But also, I think what I appreciated about Furiosa is how much he was not in a hurry, right? Because like
Hmm.
Furiosa's character was allowed to breathe. So the younger version of Furiosa's character was like, for the first 40 minutes, we are only dealing with the younger version of Furiosa's character.
Correct. Correct.
You
Correct.
know, because
Hmm.
Anya Taylor Joy's version comes like after 45 minutes.
More or
And
less.
that,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and that is like insane to me, considering that she's
Yeah.
effectively the lead in this. So it basically means that this is a character whom Miller had thought about and breathed about and had written it for a while. And if you explore what Fury Road's backstory and everything, how much of a thought he had given into, that included the Mad Max games, that included the Vertigo comics, that included all of the scripts that he had written throughout, you can understand that there had been a lot of thought process that went into this world. But
Yeah.
what I really loved about Miller is the fact that Miller had always been, for a very long time, had been a filmmaker who, utilized visuals more than dialogue. Right? He
That's
always
true.
wanted to be a silent filmmaker. You know,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
so his dialogue writing hadn't been the strongest. In even in the earlier movies, I think
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
Furiosa, I think his dialogue writing has improved a lot more.
Hmm.
Even
But
if
I
it
think
is
that is also
fast.
down to the characters. Do you think
Yeah,
that?
that is down to the characters, but I think even his dialogue writing, even his speechifying of some elements, they have improved a lot more. They have,
Hmm.
somewhat risen above the exploitation nature of the whole story. So that's what I appreciated more. I mean, there are flaws. It's never going to reach what Fury Road had been, simply because of the novelty factor. I think
Correct.
Fury Road has,
Hmm.
yeah, it had such a
That's
novelty
an
factor, it can be
inherent
long.
thing, right? That's an
Yeah, yeah,
inherent
yeah,
thing for the film itself. That it's
yeah, yeah.
unbeatable in that sense.
Yeah, but considering the amount of stuff we get as action movies and everything, the intermixing and intermixing of practical effects with CGI and how they're utilized and everything, I genuinely think this movie was really, really good. I still don't
Yeah,
understand the people who are complaining that CGI actually ruined it. I don't think it ruined it, but I think
I
I will discuss
agree
more
to
when
you.
we get
Yeah, I
into
agree with you.
spoilers. Yeah, I think I'll discuss more when we get into spoilers. But
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
of course, of course.
anyway.
So I went on the first day itself, but like the later show in the evening because I was caught up with some work.
Hmm.
And to again similar, I was on similar lines. Even I was surprised with what the film turned out to be. I had
Hmm.
no idea. I had seen just the first trailer,
Hmm.
as Adithyan said as well, like the first one, and then I had no idea what this film was going to be about. But a very close friend, Teja, who's part of the podcast as well, he messaged me saying that he doesn't understand why people are liking this film. And this is before I went into the theater. Like
Hmm.
this
Hmm.
was
Hmm. Hmm.
around afternoon, and he did not like the film at all.
Hmm.
To my surprise, I was like, I can't believe that this is happening, because in my head, and I didn't want to know anything what the film was
Hmm.
about, or just generally I wanted to just go in blindly and enjoy it. And he said he didn't enjoy it, and whatever, like he elaborated what he felt. And I was like, we'll speak about it once I watch it, so that I don't get my experience spoiled. But the film, to my experience, was amazing, just insanely beautiful. And how you've mentioned about Miller, about silent films and all that, I was crazy about Fury Road when it had come out. Again, I think in May 15th or something in
May
2015,
15th. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
May
around that.
22nd, something like that, because I remember Bombay Velvet had also come out, and Piku was also out around the same time, so it was a very good May of
Yeah.
2015. But I was stunned. And I remember watching the trailer of Fury Road as well. And I was like, what is this world? Because I
Hmm.
couldn't really comprehend, like watching the trailer. The trailer was insane. I think it's like 2.5 minutes, I remember. But the background score and everything just coming together, I was like, what is this world? What are these people? Where are we? So that really made me curious into getting into that world. And that film itself was just insane.
Hmm.
To this date, I still think it's amongst my top few, action films
Yeah,
that I've
yeah,
seen,
yeah.
alongside I think Mission Impossible Fallout, and even some.
It's an insanely well made action film. It's
Yeah,
like out
yeah,
of the world
yeah.
made.
And
Hmm.
again, like at that time I was so obsessed with George Miller's vision and just his filmmaking style. I went into his rabbit hole of just watching the making of the film and whatnot and
Hmm.
everything.
Hmm.
And to my surprise, not my so much of a surprise, but he was mentioning about silent films, just audio visual format, right, which even
Hmm.
Villeneuve kind of emulated in Dune in a certain sense. And
Yeah,
that
one
is
could.
in my personal opinion, in my opinion, like just the most fascinating form of filmmaking. And I've spoken about it in the last episode, right, where when I was talking about like what films mean to me in general, right,
Hmm.
the last live stream. so
Yeah.
so it became like a fascinating, rabbit hole to get down into. And this film is a very different combination in a sense about a, a certain novelization, right? To me, it felt right like I'm reading chapters of a book, like how I read is like a chapter a night type feeling, right? And this kind of felt in that sense like I'm reading one chapter of a film. And and also experiencing that, almost silent, but also great combination with Dementus, who's very verbose character, like
Yeah. He's the most
he,
talkative character in this entire world. इतना बात कोई नहीं
entire
करता
universe.
है.
He's describing tears as zesty, piquant, and I'm like,
Hmm. mm,
where is this coming from, right?
yeah.
And very interesting combination of just too much verbose and sort of a silent persona of Anya Taylor Joy's Furiosa, right? And because the eyes do the talking in that sense, right? The
It's a
intensity,
Western. It's the Western
it's a
sensibility,
Western.
right?
It's a Western sensibility. And of course, there are a lot of elements that he's used in this which are just interesting to talk. But
Mm,
more or less, my initial thoughts, I loved the film. I loved how they are treating a revenge film in this way. You know,
mm,
it is very messy. And in my opinion, I like revenge films in general. The catharsis is just beautiful. But the way you're telling this revenge film, like some of the Korean films also that I've seen, like where revenge becomes like the general thing, like Old Boy and I Saw the Devil and all that, right? It they're on a league of their own, right? And I think just the story itself can take the film to that level, in my opinion.
mm.
Just the story and how it ends and all that. So interesting, and lots of comments we'll go through, and then we'll just deep dive into, um, in
Yeah, I would like to highlight Chris's chat for a second because that's
where
exactly what I was going to say. The last one,
where is it?
Chris's
I
last
Okay.
one, last one. Just yeah,
Dropped in to check where you all at. I love that the
yeah.
screen and the chat have nothing to do with each other.
Nothing to do with it. Yeah, because chat में अलग ही conversation चल रहा है.
I was confused where we are at. What is Dhruv really talking about until I went up and checked.
Yeah, like, chat
Yes,
में अलग ही
obligatory Bombay
conversation है.
Velvet.
Yeah, chat में अलग conversation है. Uh,
Yes, that Amartya well. But what did you guys think? I'm very curious. Okay, now I think we're delving into spoiler territory. So if you guys have not seen the film, it's better you go watch the film, which we all definitely recommend.
highly
And I'm
recommend. Yeah.
Highly
being the
recommend.
spokesperson for both of them and just saying that please go watch it. But what did you guys think of the story aspect of it, where it begins, the lore, as Adityan mentioned, the imaginative explosion of where you are in this world? What did you guys think of it? Let's start with that first.
Okay.
Adityan, you want to go first?
Hmm.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Adityan, go first.
Yeah, sure, sure. Basically, they say geographical aspects only determine what kind of stories we tell. In
Hmm.
Australia continent basically, the coastal areas are the only regions where people reside, where most of the population resides,
Correct.
and
Hmm.
the center of the continent is fully outbacks.
Yeah.
No trees, no
Exactly.
forest, no
Yeah.
greenery, only dry lands. And the roads is something interesting of an aspect in Australia.
Hmm.
They have the world's longest in-road highway.
Yeah.
It's around 40,500 kilometers, highway one. So if you're driving in that road.
Jesus Christ.
Insane. Yeah.
So basically, the what every bike maniacs dream is to go there and ride their bikes. But sadly, that's the most accident prone zone in the world also, because if you are riding in that bike for 30 minutes or something in at the speed of around 100, like you go in the East Coast Road. So if you're going like that, your eyes will become full dizzy. Even if you are wearing a glass, also your eyes will become full dizzy, and you'll get thrown away by the uh, get thrown away by any of the small stones or something. You will be thrown away with a bike, and you
Hmm.
die
Hmm.
instantly. So that's how.
Hmm.
And you basically don't have. So that's the basic vision of
Yeah.
what original Mad Max is actually. Original Mad
Correct. I
Max is
think George Miller also in some interview was saying that he was inspired. Like I think he grew up somewhere in
is
Queensland,
Hmm.
and
it's New
he used
South
to
Wales.
look at
New
roads
South
which would
Wales.
just go endlessly and like flat lands and
Exactly.
all that. So
Yeah. So
interesting
he was
aspect.
a
Yeah. Yeah.
doc. He was a doctor. So
Doctor.
he was a
Yeah.
doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a doctor, and his cases with accidents have actually inspired him to tell the story of Mad Max. Mad Max first part. And Mad Max, the name Roktansky, that name was taken from a 19th century physician or psychologist. I don't really remember.
Okay.
Roktansky, that name.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So
Hmm.
the medical background you can see in the film, and basically the biker gangs, everything you see is actually something prevalent in Australia. The biker gangs, everyone, the biker gangs you see in the first part are true biker gangs. They the
Yeah.
except for the villain, everyone
So
are the. bikers
Hmm.
in that.
So
Varun
the
has
thing,
something
yeah, the
interesting to add.
Gallipoli, the Peter
Gallipoli,
Yeah,
Weir film, I think, right, Varun?
Peter Weir film.
Yeah.
Peter
Yeah.
Way. Yeah. That was the
No, but
that was yeah, that was the
yeah.
Hmm.
beginning of Australian New Wave films, the Peter Weir film.
Yeah.
Australian Film
Wake in
Commission was
Fright, Wake in
yeah.
Fright. Then Gallipoli. Then you had, what was the name of that trucker movie? Forgetting the truck movie. It's
Hmm.
very much like a duel, Spielberg's duel, like, but set in the
Yeah.
Australian
Okay.
outback. Yeah.
So
Another
Like,
great movie.
okay.
Yeah.
so basically that film had kind of minimalistic approach, and the violence, everything is implied in it. Not this, though it's exploitation genre, the gore or everything is implied in it, because of the
Because I
budget
think it
limitation.
was budget, correct. I think it was
Yes,
less than
Budget, more of a budget
400,000
thing.
budget
Australian dollars,
limitation.
right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's a very much
And
a
then it
budget.
went
Yeah.
on to make $100 million US. So it's
Yes,
like
exactly.
insane,
So, so
Insane
insane amount of
profit.
money.
so
Insane profit.
fascinating stuff is, I think the original Mad Max was like so low budget overall ki it wasn't post apocalyptic, but it was
Yes.
very dystopian because budgetary constraints had forced him to create the movie as close to reality as possible. But because it is
Hmm.
Miller and because his vision is like so much of a hipster vibe of a singularity or anything, his biker gangs also were extremely dangerous, but they also evoked like who made the
Hmm.
Warriors? Did Coppola make the Warriors? The Warriors
Warriors?
movie.
No, no, no.
Who made the
Warriors.
Warriors? I am not remembering who made the Warriors. If nobody has seen the Warriors, which stars Temura Morrison of Star Wars, who played Boba Fett, please watch that movie.
Walter
That
Hill.
movie is,
Walter Hill.
yeah, Walter Hill.
Walter.
Walter Hill's Warriors. Yeah,
Walter.
Okay,
it
okay.
very
Walter
much
Hill
is
film.
evoking. Yeah, it very much is evoking Walter Hill's Warriors in that
Hmm.
crazy tonality. Okay, so you get what it is going for, but I think overall the Road Warrior, that is 81's Road Warrior, is what
Second film.
Second part.
Miller actually had envisioned
Actually
it to.
had his mind.
Correct.
Exactly.
It's like how Evil Dead 2 was the better version of Evil
Well,
Dead in a
Yeah.
sense.
or
In a
even
sense.
Exactly.
Terminator, or even Terminator 2. Though to be
That
fair,
was
Terminator 1 is very
Terminator
good,
2.
but Terminator 2 is
Yeah,
like
yeah.
insane. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
Terminator
the
2 is,
heart of the
yeah.
of the story. Yeah.
So I think in Road Warrior, I think if I had to recommend one movie in the Mad Max franchise, I think I would recommend Road Warrior without even watching
Yeah.
the first movie because
Yeah.
Exactly.
Road Warrior in the beginning only it gives off a black and white flashback about the world itself, that to what
Yeah.
happened,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
World
remember
and
watching it when I was a kid, and I was so fascinated just by Mel Gibson's persona because I was like, this sheer macho-ness, I don't know where is this coming from. It
Yeah,
was
yeah,
I had a
and
sticker of Mad Max in my cupboard when I was a kid because that whole persona was just so
exactly.
magnetic persona, and you
yeah, yeah.
put him in a world
Actually,
like that. It's like
Hmm.
just a very interesting combination to have.
Mad Max was totally a cultural phenomenon in India itself during the 80s. My appa
Okay.
used to say that when Mad Max first part got released, the haircuts of the biker gangs, the second part, technically, more than first part, the
Yeah,
second
yeah,
part,
it must be the
like the
second part. Yeah,
haircut,
yeah, yeah.
the biker gang's haircut, and Mel Gibson's haircut, the
Yeah.
costumes, everything was so famous that even if you go to a salon, in men's salon, they say that
Varun, if you're
give me
talking
a
about Shamshar, Jesus Christ, no, fuck no, fuck no.
so
Yeah,
basically,
Continue.
Appa used to say that if you go to a salon, the boys used to say, please put up a Mad Max haircut. So that's how famous the Mad Max films were at
Yeah,
that time.
it was a
At
big
that time,
phenomenon
yeah,
in
yeah.
the 80s. Yeah.
it was a totally a big phenomenon. But this generation doesn't know actually how much of a phenomenon is that.
Exactly.
Because
And
I
I
think the
think
gap between the third film and when Fury Road came was too huge, right? With
it
25,
was
30
huge.
years.
Also,
Exactly.
also, and
85
here's
to 2015, it's like
and here's
Yeah.
where
too big.
here's where some of the interesting bits come into play because if you look at what Road Warrior was, if I'm going to compare Road Warrior's world building, I'm going to compare it with Ridley Scott's Blade Runner simply because the world building was extrapolating from a very realistic event, say that happened around 4 or 5 years ago. So
Actually,
79's Mad Max.
interestingly, there is a paper, Dennis H. Barber's paper, Heroism and Redemption in Mad Max Trilogy. It was published
Hmm.
in Journal of Public Film and Television. They
Hmm.
compared in one the conclusion. They compare it with Blade Runner. So
Blade
that's
Runner,
it.
right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Now,
I
just
can imagine,
today only.
especially I think Beyond Thunderdome's conclusion is very much reminiscent of Blade Runner. But
It's true.
Yeah, that's handy. That's handy version, and the entire, buildings being ruined and everything. That's very much
Yeah,
reminiscent
yeah.
of Blade Runner. Why I'm talking about Blade Runner is because it is like retro future, right? Because 79's Mad Max, the year which it is taking place is around 84 to 85. Okay, so
Hmm.
immediately after that, the dystopia had already started, which is the petrol wars. Okay,
Hmm.
because battle over fuel and everything else that had occurred, which is why there is a strong discontent among all the populace to survive, which is why all they want as barter system is bartering over petrol and fuel and everything
Petrol,
else.
food, and
Yeah.
so interestingly,
Water.
what how Miller got inspired by was something like that. That he's like, in Australia, there's no gun culture, right?
Yeah.
Unlike US. So what had happened was, at some point in the 70s only, some fuel shortage had happened or something like that had
Yes,
happened.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And he's like, at that point, it was like he didn't even realize when, at what point they reached the threshold of, their tolerance with of not having something, that the
Hmm.
gun culture just sort of started immediately of not having, of the shortage of just fuel. And
Hmm.
that sort of inspired him to, start that one core bit, and then he moved on
He
further into
moved on
that
it. So
dystopian.
Yeah, yeah.
the Mad Max films had always been very much about immediacy, right? Immediacy during
Yeah.
a specific era, and from that, extrapolating that to a very logical sort, quote unquote, logical version of dystopia, however you put it. Because even as you see the dystopia, even as you see the post-apocalyptic world, within which there are planes which are flying, which very clearly is inspired from Kennedy's version of the Star Wars vehicle, which we also see in Kingsman. The flight vehicle, which
Yeah.
the gyrocopter, or say in
Helicopter.
Beyond Thunderdome and all of it.
We genuinely like Mad Max movies, Arvind.
The the original Mad Max movies could be considered as made. If you compare Fury Road as made, I don't know what to tell you. But anyway, doesn't
Um,
I
matter.
think I
But
like Road Warrior quite a lot. I still love it.
no, no, I like
Road
Road
Warrior.
Warrior. I like
Just
Road Warrior
today's
fine.
film.
I think it's really good.
Yeah, Road Warrior was great.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
But
Hmm.
extremely good.
also I think one of the reasons, I think what happened between Fury Road, Road Warrior and Fury Road is there had been such a massive gap between all of the movies, because Fury Road
Hmm.
was supposed to star an older Mel Gibson, right? But because there
Yeah,
had been such a long delay, because of a lot of
Yeah.
reasons, nine
I
eleven,
mean, they
Iraq
started
War,
making in the, yeah, correct, 9/11 and all
9/11
that
Iraq
started,
War.
and
9/11, Iraq War, all of that
they
stuff had
wanted to
happened, right?
film in Namibia, I think, at some
Yeah,
point,
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah,
and they couldn't because it's an Islamic state, so they couldn't do that because of the 9/11 thing.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then Mel
exactly.
Gibson was a
yeah.
different persona by mid 2000s, right?
Yeah,
Because
because by mid
of
2000s
his
he had started spouting a
hot
He
lot of
takes.
stuff. Yeah,
he
let's
had
not
been in
go there.
controversies.
I think they
Yes,
went to Australia to film again, and what had happened was, there was,
Yeah,
the flowers had bloomed and all that, so they couldn't film.
yeah,
they
So
couldn't
eventually
film.
they went
Yes,
back to Namibia again, which is
yes,
just insane. The
it's
amount of
insane amount
money and
of.
just headache and
Mhm.
to make a film like that.
So by the time the mid 2010s came around,
Yeah.
Miller had already written so much backstory for Fury Road that
Yes.
to effectively conceive of Jesus Christ, Dhruv, to effectively conceive of uh, putting Gibson's Mad Max as anything of a continuation was
Yeah.
becoming
It didn't
almost
make
impossible.
sense.
It
Didn't
became
make
didn't
sense
make sense.
also, I would say.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because in the original script for Fury Road, Gibson's version was an older version, and by the time the original Fury Road ended, Gibbs's version would climb up the elevator with Furiosa and would contemplate thinking about spending a life with Furiosa. But by the time
Okay.
that script had shifted and evolved so much that Gibson was out of the picture, so he
Hmm.
brought in a younger version. That is
Yeah,
Tom
and I think
Hardy's Tom.
one of the
Yeah,
most amazing casting in general.
casting.
Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
yeah,
recasting, if you want to put it
Yeah, yeah,
as
it's
that.
a recasting, but what it is, because this is effectively Bond basically. Okay, this is effectively like a
Yeah, yeah,
Bond
yeah.
recast.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Correct,
So
correct, correct.
by recasting him, what he did was, because you're casting a younger version of Mad Max, the script undergoes even more changes, because now you're recasting your entire world throughout. Because even if you think about the dystopia of the original Mad Max, they were already set in very specific timelines.
Yeah.
Because in Beyond Thunderdome, one of the characters, Captain Walker, had been missing in 1999. Okay, even if you
Hmm.
conceivably take all of that into account, Max in Fury Road ideally should be around 80 years old. That is not possible, right? So
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
happen. So
Hmm.
now the entire
No, I think
timeline shifts.
in a review, I think, sorry, in an interview, Miller, I think with Mark Kermode, no, sorry, Simon Mayo. I think he was
Hmm,
saying this film takes place um,
hmm.
50 years, quote unquote,
40
from the
years,
next
40 years
Wednesday.
from next
It's
Wednesday. 40 years from next
50,
Wednesday.
40.
50,
50 years
50,
from next.
50 years, I think. Such an
Anyway, so
interesting way to put the story in context. So I think
no,
that
but
kind of
also
adds to the whole lore only in general, like
but
where
also
you're
but
putting the
also because he
characters.
shifts the timeline, now he will have to take into more realistic context. So now when the black
Hmm.
and white segments start in Fury Road, the real world occurrences that he's referencing is the 2010 to 2013 presidential term of Tony Abbott,
Tony Abbott.
Hmm.
and that is very very direct, which is why
Yeah.
he said that this takes place for 50 years since the next Wednesday, because that is very direct. That reference, that Tony Abbott reference, is very very direct. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
since that is taking place from the 2010s, so
And
everything now
comics,
shifts.
comics too. They have this, the
Yeah, the
slogans
comics
of
too.
the Tony Abbott
Yeah, but the
slogans.
comics, yeah, but the comics have different issues. The comics are trying to retrofit all the events of the original films, which
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
work. So it doesn't
yeah,
matter.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Anyway, so this is how the lore overall begins. But and also, I think one of the cleverer things which Miller does to incorporate to show that this lore is much more new is the cars. Look at it from this
Hmm.
perspective. If you look at the 80s version, all of the cars were during that era just modeled and reconstructed to very weird stuff, right? In the
Hmm.
modern climate, if you look at the base chassis of those cars were like Nissan Skyline GTR. Okay, those cars were
Hmm.
like, I think Ford Mustang. The V8 Interceptor was V8.
Reconstructed in a sense,
V8
no?
Interceptor.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Even the V8 Interceptor was a newer version. Okay,
Hmm.
and like some of the like how do I put this? The calculators and all of the keys and everything, those were taken from like Nokia 6100 and all of those phones. Those phones had come out since in early 2009 to 2010. So it
yeah.
doesn't make sense overall. So in a
But
way,
Even
tell me one thing. I have a question
after,
now.
yeah,
When you watch Fury Road, right, and we
hmm,
were just thrown into that world, right, and that is a world very starkly different from what we saw in the earlier Mad Max films, and
yes,
that
mm.
depends if someone had seen those Mad Max films. If you haven't seen, also you can still watch Fury Road, right,
Mhm.
without
Yeah, yeah,
context.
yeah,
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 exactly.
But even in that sense, I think it was such an interesting way to put us viewers in that world, not knowing what Citadel really is,
Mm.
who the villain really is, or who the protagonist. I think just the protagonist. I think Max introduces himself with a voiceover, right? I think that's the only
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
introduction you get. That it's a
Only
mad
introduction. Yeah,
world,
yeah.
crazy world.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. Either they are crazy or I am, whatever, right?
Mm.
But here, when you in Furiosa, when you kind of expand upon Gas Town, or Gun Town, or whatever,
Bullet farm.
so
Bullet farm,
Bullet,
bullet
Bullet
yeah.
farm.
Farm, Bullet Farm. So what did you feel watching Fury? It's a question for both of you, because what did you feel watching Fury Road, because without context of Citadel and all that, and what did you feel now when it was expanded upon? Because I, for one, in Fury Road, even though I was a little confused, like why would these war boys be this way? Why would
Yeah,
the
Exactly.
what is the equipment the villain is wearing? What is his name? I forgot. Uh,
Immortan Joe.
Immortal Joe.
Immortan
Immortan
Joe.
Joe would do it. Yeah, why
Hmm.
is he Immortan Joe? Like, so all those questions really bugged me. But the
So if
narrative
you are
as such,
interested,
you don't get time into thinking about that. You're just
I think
involved in the
I
immediacy of
think
things,
Fury
right?
Road. I think
How you
Fury Road does it
mentioned.
very smartly, right? I think Fury Road does it very smartly because
Yeah,
even if your script and everything evolved, what didn't evolve, what basically Miller just dragged itself from the 70s to the 2020s was his own crash zoom filmmaking style. F of
Just
Varun. Those only crash zoom, his crash zoom filmmaking style, right? Because that filmmaking style with all of the speed ramping and
exactly,
everything, that is so 70s reminiscent, right?
yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Which is
But I
intermixed
think that
into the.
But
that was
still,
also the circumstances kind of thing, right?
Of
They
course,
had
of
to speed
course.
up, ramp up, because I think the edit wasn't working, and
The
his
edit
wife,
wasn't working. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Margaret
His wife.
Sixel, she somehow
Hmm.
made it work. I don't. She's an insane editor to make a film like that work out, because I can't even imagine. the
Yeah,
amount
yeah,
of shots they took and to sew it as one. And there's a very interesting technique that is used with Fury Road. I think we've pondered a lot on Fury Road now.
previous.
Uh,
no, but I think we
like
need to also, because that is the base,
in
right?
general, if
Because
you are looking at action that takes place inside a frame,
yeah,
you can figure out there is just one center of focus, one character that is driving the focus in that frame. Always,
yeah.
if you look at
Mhm,
every
mhm.
frame, and I
Yeah,
think they were rescaling the frames like in
Yes,
post production, right? And
yes,
that is
yes,
yeah,
an
yes, yes.
insane technique to just make things work in that sense.
Like that was
And I
very noticeable, right? That was
yeah,
very
yeah.
it was
noticeable,
what,
especially in the
but it
truck.
works. It
It
works.
completely works.
You're involved. And in Furiosa, what I thought was the filmmaking is very clean. It
Hmm.
just
Yes,
is
exactly.
very organized in that sense. And I
The
thought this,
guerrilla filmmaking is pretty not, you can't see in the Furiosa.
You
no,
can't see in few videos.
Guerrilla
Yeah,
filmmaking you
it's
can't
very
see in
clean. The
Furiosa.
frames are just very placed. The action, even though it's like there is chaos in that frame, right? There are people,
Yeah,
the bikes that are flying, and you are on this truck, and there are so many different things happening. But
yes,
still,
exactly,
there is an organization like one, two, three, four steps that happen,
exactly.
and I think there's a certain beauty to that kind of storytelling, which how it has involved in like evolved in a film like I think Furiosa. But Adityan, go
Furiosa.
ahead. What would you say like in that sense of
yeah.
just
See,
dropping into
man,
this world?
see, Fury Road, Fury Road was a It's a pretty long chase movie, as you said. So
Yeah,
you don't at first watch, you don't really. I didn't really know what's happening down there, but still I was very engaged with the film. But over the course of multiple rewatches and everything, I played the games and the comics and everything I've
yeah,
read and played. That's what made me curious about the world building, because the world was so the world and over the course of 3 years I understood how much of a ecological, ecological themes and disaster themes he puts down
yeah,
for the
yeah,
film. He has put
yeah, yeah, yeah.
in first Mad Max Fury Road. First Mad Max, you don't really see, they say that it's dystopia, but still you don't really see what's a dystopia. But in Fury Road, in Mad Road Warrior and Thunderdome or Fury Road only, you can see in Fury Road only you can see the exact vision of what kind of a dystopia or post-apocalyptic world you can see. In one of the essays by Susan Sontag titled "Imagination of Disaster," so in that
Hmm.
essay, she says about science fiction, all the post-apocalyptic films.
This is the
The
Sontag essay, right?
Yeah, Sontag essay, yes,
Yeah, yeah.
Sontag.
Susan Sontag's essay. Yeah. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
So in
continue.
this in this in the Sontag essay, she says that these films, disaster film, beautify the world and neutralize it by taking
Hmm.
audiences into exotic, dangerous situations which have last-minute happy
Hmm.
endings. Basically, that's what all the Mad Max films are basically of that. They follow a hero's journey. The hero's
Correct,
journey,
correct.
Miller has quoted the hero with thousand faces by Joseph Campbell.
Joseph Campbell.
In
Yes.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
all
Yeah,
the Mad Max Fury Road are basically the refusal of the hero. The refusal of the hero. He doesn't accept to be a hero. His fate puts him to be the hero. To be the hero. To be the
Are,
hero.
hmm.
Even
are sir. Timmy Chalamet ka Dune, sir.
This
Same,
is
yes,
same
also
only.
a very
Yeah.
that's the
Western film in
archetypal
general, also,
criticism.
right?
That's the archetypal
Yeah.
criticism for 101.
Luke.
That's
Yeah. Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker from Star Wars. It's the same thing.
Yeah,
everything,
but it's
same
at core
thing.
it was the Western genre, right, which
Yeah. Yeah.
perfected
Of
this
course.
this thing, right?
Of
Exactly.
course.
And I think
So
this
see,
is very much a Western only, right? Like how it is even
yeah,
designed in its sense of
yeah,
the
yeah,
not just the
exactly.
landscape, but if you see the night time, right?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Uh, they are not doing like this, like the night sequences feel like how do I say? If you watch the older westerns, right? They
yeah, yeah.
they
Hmm.
don't shoot
The
they
color
don't shoot
grading,
at
you
night.
mean, right?
The color grading, right?
Blue
Correct.
film,
Yeah.
blue
Color
film.
It's
grading. Yeah.
the blue feel like because you can't switch on lights right at
Yeah,
night.
yeah.
The
Hmm.
horses didn't have lights, so it's
Hmm.
just a very interesting way of looking at that. It's the moonlight which lights up the whole landscape. A very
Yeah.
Western way of, so that for me was very
Ash.
interesting
I think the
Yeah,
from the
exactly.
Western
beginning.
ways of I think the Western ways, of course, because even in Road Warrior and Thunderdome, all of those movies are supposed to be quote unquote campfire stories of a man walking through the desert. A man named Mad Max walking through the desert. Right? It's basically
Yeah,
quote unquote a fable sort of. In that
yeah.
regard, I think even Fury Road is that. Fury Road is about a fable, and because this Max is different from Mel
Hmm.
Gibson's Max, also gives
Fury Road
credence to
is a
that fact.
fable. I think Furiosa is a fable, right? That way,
Furiosa.
No, no.
Fury.
Fury Road is definitely. Fury Road is definitely like. How do I put this? I'm going to put a very weird thing. Fury Road is basically a DLC to the video game that is Furiosa. Fury Road is the final climax DLC that is Furiosa. Basically,
it
that's
feels
its
like a different a
Yeah.
chapter, a sixth chapter in that
sixth
story.
chapter. Yeah,
Yes, exactly.
it's
Yeah.
yeah. It's also like Quantum of Solace, which is a DLC to Casino Royale. Except Quantum of Solace. Yeah, except Fury Road is much better than Quantum of Solace. I'm sorry.
We
Yeah.
have a few comments that I think we should answer in a certain way. Kaushik asks, but I don't really see Paul as a hero. Do you guys? I mean,
Sir,
That's
that is
the
that's another
we'll
day. That's
digress.
another day. That's another discussion
We'll
for this.
digress. But just
yeah.
if Amartya, if you want to touch upon, do you want to go on it? Like, no,
Yeah,
yes or no?
I'm just going to say two lines. I think that was the whole point of Dune that Herbert was trying to do, right? He was trying to subvert the hero's journey overall and to basically comment on what makes a hero and what
Antithesis.
makes somebody of worship,
Which
worthy of worship.
Dhruv also
That
Yeah.
said.
yeah,
But
exactly.
Dhruv has
Same
another
thing.
question. What is a fable, guys?
अरे सर अमर चित्र कथा पढ़ो समझ जाओगे.
But Dhruv also asks, okay, isn't getting dropped into the world and then figure out the reasons for why is that one is one of the big pleasures. Absolutely true. Absolutely true.
Hmm.
My
One
question
of
was
the
just that how did you feel watching something like not knowing what a citadel really is? Why is the water being flown from the top? And so all
I
those
didn't
things are
really care.
interesting to get into. You
I
didn't
didn't
care?
really care. I didn't really care at the first watch. I didn't really care because it was just adrenaline pumping and everything, guns blazing and cars
Hmm.
chasing. And you don't really for a 13-year-old, for a 15-year-old, it was cinema. It was the cinema. I don't really need. I didn't really need it to be
Absolutely true. But I think on so I watched Fury Road a couple of times now, like at least 5 times I would say, more than that I would say.
basically.
So I
Yeah.
think the first few times, of course, I did watch it for the first time. It was just an experience. Like I was getting in so much information that I did not have time to think about anything.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I
Yes.
think it was out on online, right? I think in a month or something. I think
yes,
June
it was
2020,
yes, it was yes.
very soon, sooner than
Yeah.
Yeah.
expected, I would say.
Yes, yes,
And then
yes,
I
yes.
watched it for that adrenaline rush. But the third, the fourth time, I was just more curious about this world, the more
Well,
details I was
exactly.
picking up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Exactly.
think that's also we've spoken about how classics are in general, right? You experience and you discover new things every time you watch it.
Hmm.
That became an interesting touch point for me that I was more curious about this world. Why is Gastown being, led by this guy? Why is the bullet farms guy blind, right? He's wearing a something
He
on his
becomes
eyes.
blind. He
He
becomes
becomes
blind.
blind.
It becomes
He
Yeah,
blind.
he
becomes
becomes
blind.
blind.
Why is he blind, right? That was a
Hmm.
bigger question for me. So all those things made me very curious, and I think Furiosa just suffices that kind of thirst in me for wanting to
Exactly.
watch something like that. Just
But
Exactly.
give me
mm,
more of this world.
but I
Like,
think
that
yeah,
was
but I
my
think one
biggest
of the
takeaway.
pleasures of watching Furiosa is also the fact that look, there are franchises that have decided that we are going to answer each and every question of each and every lore possible, even if we didn't have any question. It's like
Huh.
it's like it's like how did the plans for the Death Star get to the rebels? We did not need to know it, by the way. Okay, they got the
Hmm.
plans. We did not need to know it,
Yeah.
but we got Rogue
Yeah.
One for no reason. Doesn't matter. We did not need to know it.
Yeah.
I think Furiosa's success is the fact that Furiosa doesn't make the entire expansion of the lore the point of the movie. That's not the
Yes.
point of the movie. At the end of the
Furiosa.
day, the point of the movie is the journey of a girl in this world who
Absolutely.
has been separated from
Yeah.
her home and trying to get back. Which is
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
Fury Road becomes even more impactful by the end, because
Yeah.
Yeah.
what happens at Fury Road becomes even more shocking because
And also sadder
yeah,
in
also
that sense.
sadder because
Yeah.
finally she returns to that home and that home is gone. That home
Yeah.
Gone.
is not there
Yeah.
anymore.
I think
Yeah.
that moment for always has been. I even if I play it right now, I'm gonna get goosebumps. That moment works for me in all its purity. That
Yes.
emotion just comes through beautifully.
Hmm.
Everything works. Like I was talking like about this in Avesham also, right? Every single moment works. Every single element of filmmaking just comes together to
Exactly.
tell the apathy of that certain character, right? I mean,
Yes.
not in
Exactly.
Avesham, but in Fury Road. But
Hmm.
it's just that when you watch something like this, like a Furiosa, that moment just becomes even more precious to tell that story.
Yes.
Like what Kaushik is saying.
Exactly.
Charlie's was so good in
Exactly.
that scene.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Charlie's was excellent
so
in
good.
that scene. Yes.
I was very
That same.
curious.
I agree, Chris Patrick. Don't drop by. So, yes.
It was
Let's
Dhruv's
go.
joke, but uh,
No, but also
Yeah.
I think one of the bigger things here is if we are going to look into how the action sequences work and why is it cleaner, I think one of the
let's just do one more question by Dhruv, which was the
yeah, yeah,
whole
okay.
fable thing, and then we'll
Okay.
move on to the action sequences.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, use fable as an excuse to justify boneheaded plot decisions made in the film.
No,
What do
I
you
think
guys
I
think?
think no, I think why I was talking about using Fable is in the older quote unquote older days of movie making,
Yeah.
continuity hadn't been that much of an issue, or making a universe or making a overall narrative hadn't been that much of an issue. It had
Hmm.
always been story driven somewhat, right? That is why even when Miller is making Mad Max or say Road Warrior or say Beyond Thunderdome, when Beyond Thunderdome suddenly becomes like Finding Neverland for no reason whatsoever, like at the end of the day, it's still a story. You can watch Road Warrior to get what Thunderdome is, or you can just drop in and just enjoy what a weird, fantastical
It's
world it
true. Yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah. I agree. But also
Because at
then the touch
Mhm.
points become interesting that way when
Yes.
going through with the characters. I think that I think is more
Yeah.
fable esque in
And
that
also
sense for me.
because Fury, both Road Warrior as well as Beyond Thunderdome, always begins with a voiceover saying, this is
History man.
this is my world, this is what was happening, and that was the time I met the lonely traveler, or the man with no
Yeah,
name, or the
some
person
That
they
was
call Mad
biblical.
Max. It's very biblical in a
uh,
way. Yes.
interesting. Yeah,
Biblical in a way.
yeah,
It's very
yeah, yeah.
biblical in a way. It's also very Western in a way, because in the
Yeah.
TV shows like Kung Fu, or
Man with the
even
no
like
name,
Man with No Name, like spaghetti
lore.
westerns, it's all the same thing, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
those didn't have any connecting tones. The connective tissue was always the aesthetics. They never had
Yeah.
narrative connection with each of the films. It was always the
Yeah,
aesthetic connection and hints of
correct.
history. That's what I meant by Fable, more or
I
less.
think
Hmm.
we can say, can we say, Furiosa is like good, bad, ugly of Miller and because I felt
Yes,
like good, bad, ugly, more
In
yes,
a
good, bad, and
sense,
ugly
yeah.
version of
yeah. I
Furiosa.
think my
And
Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace works better, but anyway, doesn't matter.
No, no, I think Good Bad Ugly also sort of fits
Yeah, yeah, good,
in
bad,
that
and
good,
ugly.
zone.
bad,
Yeah,
ugly
because
compared to all the fistful of dollars and
Mhm.
every all the dollar, all the previous two movies, the scale is too huge and and this full of
Yeah.
like mythological, and it's
and
so
it is
mythological
You
and
have Civil War coming in. You have
and
just
good, bad, and
so
yeah,
much.
ugly is technically a prequel to Fistful of Dollars and A Few Dollars More. It is a prequel. If
Mm.
you
yeah,
if you look at
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
My
it
favorite
is a
still is
prequel.
$2 more. Yeah.
Yeah, it
And
is a
also
prequel.
interestingly, that movie, the blue eyes, that
Lee Van
character,
Cleef.
Vegan Thief played both villains in both two movies, but disconnected from, share.
I
It's
Yeah.
not
mean,
a
he was
shared
a
universe.
villain in for
No,
a few
The
in
dollars.
for a
same,
few
The bounty
in
hunter.
for a few dollars more, he was more the anti-hero sort of a
Revenge.
yeah,
thingy who
anti-hero,
He was,
becomes
anti-hero. I
but
mean,
it was
he
after
played the
Revenge, right?
same
yeah,
two
yeah, yeah.
After
characters. The
Revenge, I think.
same actor played two characters.
Yeah,
Similarly,
yeah, yeah.
in
Yeah,
Mad
yeah.
Max also, the first
Mad Max also,
first
right? The Road
Joe
Warrior
Cutter and
Road
Immortan Joe, the actors are
yeah,
same.
Toe
Same
Cutter.
actor.
The
Yeah.
gyrocopter,
Interesting.
the gyrocopter pilot also played a different pilot in Beyond Thunderdome. It's the same guy,
Yeah,
Bruce
yeah,
Pence.
yeah,
Oh,
It's
yeah,
like yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't know
same
that.
yeah,
guy,
yeah, yeah.
same guy.
Let's move on to action now. What did you guys
Yes.
think of the action and specific the cleanliness that we mentioned in general? What did you guys think? Were you blown away by it, or was it? I mean, I for me, I think it fits the story. That for me was the biggest takeaway
Yeah,
in general. I think it still made it very interesting um, how what do you Bomby Knocker, you
Bomby
know,
Knocker, yes.
became part of the whole action
ah,
sequence as it was introduced and as like a small element. So, and I
yeah,
think so. I watched the film two times already. I went yesterday again
ah,
to watch it.
yeah,
Uh,
Jesus Christ.
no, I really enjoyed it. But
Hmm.
I missed the first time I watched. I didn't get that small detail when they were building it. I
Ah,
somehow missed it. But this time I caught it up, and then when the Bomby Knocker comes into action, I was like, ah, okay, this is that, just coming into action and
s-
using it very, justifiably in that sense. Um,
yeah.
but what
So
else did you think?
in one
No,
of
I
the
think.
the same essay, so Sartag essay, she says that
Huh.
the man is
Hmm.
naked without his artifacts. She says that how technological advancements escape humans from desolation and the and ecological constraints, everything. So
Hmm.
basically how I connect with this Mad Max is the Mad Max Furiosa is that in one of the George Miller interviews he says that how the vehicles are made, the art of the machineries are made from parts
Scratch.
out of remnants of all the technology they have. So basically they
Hmm.
are building from the scratch all the vehicles from whatever parts they get. So that beauty,
It's from the remnants of the older world to rebuild into a
yeah,
newer one, but the
foldable
newer one is
newer one.
itself so, yeah. The
So
newer one is
Yeah.
basically, the
itself so flawed.
there's
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
this film only I could see the technology emphasis of how in this film that
Mm.
I was blown away by the war rig they construct with the parts. That was that
Hmm.
I was blown away by blown away. That was totally that's a simple scene, but still I was blown away by it. But by
Hmm.
how engineering plays a great role in
Yeah. Yeah.
building the building
I
the
think
vehicles.
everything around them is still engineered in a sense of just how they're surviving. I think survival made them engineers in their own sense of just
Exact,
even
yeah.
how the water machines work or whatever. Like just those cranes in general in Citadel, right?
Mhm.
And
Interesting
the and
details that come into picture.
interestingly the Dementus, the chariots,
The chariot,
the
yes.
Yeah,
chariot, the
the Ben
chariots
Hur
is made,
style.
the Ben Hur style chariot. It's made with the bikes and everything. That was actually inspired from a
Correct,
march
correct.
past
In the
film, march
70s.
past.
No, in
Yes,
the
Exact.
yes,
50s, I
yes.
think. In the 50s, I
Yeah,
think.
in the
50s,
In
I
50s.
think,
Australia
yes.
itself.
Yeah, in
In
Australia
Mm-hmm.
itself. So that was really a cool, that was really something,
Yeah,
some old ways connecting into new aesthetic, new world. So
yeah,
that's
yeah,
the kind of the world I could see with Mad Max, the retro futuristic, as Amartya said, but in a different way for the modern
Yes, exactly.
audiences, in a
I
different way
also
for the
think
modern audience.
I also think that, okay, when the movie started, right? Because we are delving quite deep into spoiler territory here. When the movie started, the movie starts with Furiosa's kidnapping from the quote unquote green place, right? And
hmm,
her mother following the kidnappers. Even in that scene, you will see how Miller's camera work and Miller's direction has changed, and it has become more, steady. How
yeah.
he's shooting each and every frame, it's very steady.
Softer in that
Static,
sense. Just
Softer
yeah.
in that sense.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Aggressiveness is not there, like those fast cuts are not there. It's very
yeah,
steady,
yeah,
and
yeah.
that steadiness gets translated in the in the first half, mid the action sequence in the highway, when the first when first finger sticks, what's the name of the guy
The
who Tom Burke
stowaway.
plays?
So
Praetorian
Praetorian
Jack.
Jack.
Yeah,
Pretorius.
when Praetorian Jack is driving that entire rig, the war rig, that entire action sequence, why I disagree that the CGI makes it ugly. I don't think the CGI makes it ugly. I think if you compare it with Fury Road, if you compare what the editing was in Fury Road, the editing was so sharp cut that
Hmm.
that moments between the action sequences, your brain is supposed to connect to your own, right? The expand the
एक सच्चा गाली
explosion
दे
and
देते
what.
मुझे
uh,
वरुण सॉरी
the
अमरता फॉर
explosion,
इंटरप्ट
no problem, the explosion and everything that is happening, and before that the collision that is happening, those sharp cuts were there so that your brain can automatically fill in the blanks, right? I
yeah
thought the CGI here was used so that Miller can effectively design the action sequence in such a fashion that he's going to show you each and every nook and cranny. So while the camera is showing you what is happening inside the truck, he's also showing you how the
Hmm.
bikers are basically converting their weapons into gliders, then they're jumping up,
Yeah,
then they're
yeah,
shooting. Everything feels so constructed. I can understand that it is CGI.
yeah.
Maybe the CGI is not that good. I get it. But I can't
I
deny
didn't
how the
feel like
CGI
that,
is utilized.
honestly.
I didn't feel like
Yeah,
it.
I
because I was blown away with how it was utilized, right? It was
yeah,
utilized so
yeah.
effectively here. It was enhancing the
No, but
overall
did
experience.
you feel the CGI like beyond the
No,
I
jarring bit?
was
Did you feel like it
no
was
no.
CGI?
no,
I didn't
no,
feel
no.
it
I couldn't. I didn't feel.
Hmm.
because
No,
I think it
I
has been a general complaint in general, right?
The
yeah.
Like
general
people
complaint,
say like whatever.
I saw a lot of reviews. I saw a lot of reviews, but we didn't really
Yeah,
see the CGA issues.
me
I
neither.
couldn't really.
Yeah,
We were so immersed into the world that we didn't. I
Yeah,
mean, that wasn't really a big thing. I mean, I couldn't see, man. I couldn't
yeah.
see. I didn't notice. I didn't
again
notice
again
the
it's
CGI
also
thing.
Me
again
neither.
it's
But
also the fact I also think that people again it's the expectation thing, right, Sanjeet? It's like people were
yeah,
Hmm.
expecting Fury Road and
Fury Road.
Furiosa
And
Yeah,
being
coming back to the point which I mentioned about Teja. So after I watched the film and we spoke about it, he
mm,
said that uh, he expected an adrenaline rush. He expected something like Fury Road, and I told him that is totally wrong expectations to have. If you have seen any of the older Mad Max films, all the films are different from each other,
all films
different,
are
right?
different, exactly, yeah.
different
It's a
beast,
different
different
story.
beast,
I mean,
beast,
the title
beast.
itself says it's Furiosa. It's not Mad Max in general. It's a different story, so the context kind of changes in a sense, right? So
Mm.
for me, I think you cannot have the same expectations from it. It's a different story, but you are in the similar world. The characters around, the eccentricity is still the same, but the adrenaline is a different kind. The story is a revenge film,
the
right?
adrenaline is
It
more
it
the adrenaline is more building up, right? It doesn't
Yeah,
start,
Exactly.
it's
it's a
like
slow build
building
up
up.
because you're
Yeah,
waiting for
Building
that
up.
last showdown, right? and
yeah.
and you're also involved in getting that, that certain point with the character, like hoping that character achieves what she wants. So the investment is different in that sense. The story is different. It is going back to its roots of vengeance, right? What
Mm,
vengeance was in the 1979 film and what vengeance is now in 2024.
mm.
So the starkness is different, the interpretation of vengeance is different. So of
Exactly.
course
the
it's going to be
filmmaker the
different.
filmmaker is different, the filmmaker is
Filmmaker is
different.
different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so
the
so
film
I think,
filmmaker sensibilities is
One of
different.
yeah,
There is a reason. There is a reason also why this script also feels way more dense than any of the other Mad Max movies. There is a reason why.
exactly.
This is a
hmm,
script which has been tinkered on for a very long time. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
it
I
does.
think they wrote it when they wrote Fury Road itself, right?
Fury Road
Yeah,
itself.
yeah,
And they
yeah.
Yeah,
wanted to
yeah, yeah,
film
yeah.
this, and then this didn't happen, so then
Actually,
this
they
happened.
wanted
So
to Fury Road. Yeah,
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
actually.
So
Even
it
in one of the Khan's interview, George Miller said, when Letterboxd asked George Miller how did he shoot the action sequences for Fury Road, he says that he rehearses the action sequence. So basically, in that climax, you see the truck being spiraling down, spiraling like anything.
hmm,
They actually made a truck and they spiraled it, and
yes,
what he says that he wants to see where he can place the cameras for the
hmm,
Hmm.
consequence to basically
yeah,
center. He wants everything to be planned.
the
The previous
focus,
technology
yeah,
the previous technology, he said that it was fascinating to me, the previous technology. So that he utilized it from Fury Road. The Fury Road was called toy box or something, that
Hmm.
previous.
Hmm. Yes,
Now
yes,
hmm,
yes.
hmm, hmm, hmm,
now
yeah,
it's
Yeah.
now I don't know. Now in Furiosa they made another previous. That's the improved version, and he made it more rehearsals, more plans.
yeah.
They took 70 days to shoot 115 minutes that highway sequence. That kind of a
Yeah,
precision you can
It
see with
feels like it just. Just
yeah,
think for a second. The war boys are climbing up on the rig. They are climbing up on
yeah,
the pole. They are
yeah.
jumping down. They are getting over the top of the pole. It's all in one take sequence. I can
yeah,
understand that it feels previous, but it looks great. I
yeah.
mean,
It
what are you
looks
talking?
Yeah.
great,
What are people
and
talking about?
And imagine every day shooting just one bit because the rigs are like huge, right? And even
Yeah,
the
yeah.
camera work is just supposedly just so difficult to place and move. I think they were mostly filming few seconds every day because it is such a
yeah,
difficult task to achieve that kind
exactly.
of movement and with perfection, because how we spoken, the constructedness, the organized way of just moving from an
Yeah.
x point to x point, it's not just
Yeah.
storyboards that kind of work, but at least just going there in
He
that
himself says
heat.
the storyboards are static, so I don't really get the
Yeah.
idea of storyboard. So I
How
I go
much
with
movement.
previous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I'm fascinated because in first Mad Max he used cameras, used lenses to shoot the
yeah,
film, but and
yeah,
now in this film he's saying that I want to see where I can place the camera. So that's so
yeah.
interesting.
Process
This
has
is
changed.
process
Process
this
has
is a
process
changed.
vision has
filmmaker. I mean, if you think about it, Mad Max, Road
Hmm.
Warrior, and Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, all of those movies have always been about more of a technical prowess than anything else. There is a reason
Hmm.
why Road Warrior and even Beyond Thunderdome has been remembered for its final 20 minutes action sequences. Both of those action sequences are jaw
Hmm.
dropping.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then one of the reasons has always been
Yeah.
because of the overall scale of it all and overall placement
Yeah.
of the camera
Yeah.
of it all and everything.
Yeah.
Is it too illogical to suggest that maybe this filmmaker again wants to improve himself and also doesn't want to repeat himself? Is it that
yeah,
Yeah.
illogical? I mean,
yeah,
who's
No.
for? I mean,
Hmm.
at this point, it's like you are blaming a filmmaker for not wanting to repeat. I can understand wanting Fury Road, but like
Yeah.
this is such a sharp disconnect. I can't help but admire.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
And I think George Miller like his filmography has been very interesting in general. I don't know
definitely.
Yeah,
if you guys have
Happy
seen
Feet,
something like
Happy.
3,000 Years
They,
of Longing. Did you
I
watch
love
it?
that movie. I love that movie.
I think we discussed
yeah,
briefly on the group at some
I
point. I
love that
remember
movie. Mm.
because of how just where so brave it is. I don't know. I just felt like the things that it is doing with
trippy.
by telling that story. It's
It
just
is
so
it is
The
interesting.
basically,
word to
yeah.
So
storytelling itself.
interesting.
You are taking a modern day iteration of Arabian Nights and trying to make a romance out of it
Romance
while
out of
trying.
it. So
Yeah,
Word
interesting.
to storytelling.
yeah.
I
It's
think the things it was
fascinating
doing
movie.
with that story, it was just so interesting to watch because I mean, leave good, bad, liking, not liking, they're all different conversations. I think the film in itself such an interesting, fascinating perspective to just
I
watch a
haven't
story
watched
like
it
that
yet.
because you will not see something like that ever.
I
No,
haven't
ever.
watched it yet. I haven't watched it.
No,
I
you
have
can
to.
say
Please
watch
watch
it.
it.
It's very
It's a
good.
lovely film. It's a lovely
Genuinely
film.
good. Yeah.
I mean,
Appa watched it and he said he liked it. So
yeah,
I'm trying to watch it
Yeah.
as
then
well.
definitely watch
Watch,
it because
watch.
the way the decisions it takes for the characters and in the frame, it's just very interesting. We'll just
Yeah.
cover a few comments and then I have two more bullet points to cover that we'll cover right away,
Yeah, yeah.
which
Furious.
are
Yeah.
Arvind asks, sorry, Arvind asks, explain depth analysis on Chris
Expect.
prosthetic makeup. So
Depth
I have
analysis.
I have a bullet point that I wanted to discuss was Dementus in general. What did you guys
Yes.
think of the character first of all, and
Absolutely.
um, I think then we'll also transition to the last part which I wanted to discuss in as a bullet point, the revenge aspect. So we'll transition from Dementus to revenge. So let's start discussing about Dementus and what he did as a character. But before we move on, Dhruv says, "Great Tilda performance. This is 3,000 years of
3,000 years
longing.
of longing. Yes.
आ
Yes. Yes.
गया Tilda का चेला."
Also, I think gorgeous Tilda performance, but also a great Idris Elba performance. I genuinely bought their
Absolutely,
chemistry.
absolutely
Genuinely
agree,
bought their chemistry.
agree.
But
But back to Arvind's point. Please explain in detail.
I mean, there is
Uh,
nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, if you conceive of what Dementus's character is, like,
Once again, my father, yes, I went yesterday with my father, okay,
okay,
and he kept saying, okay, ये कैसा लग रहा है to this guy Chris Hemsworth's way. He kept asking, is this Chris Hemsworth? He was just getting
Unrecognizable.
bamboozled here.
yeah, he was just very excited
He's
also at the same
berserk.
time, confused because he's like he looks so different, and this is such an interesting performance that was happening in frame that he was
Yeah.
like he was chuckling throughout whenever he would come, and I was
Yes.
also equally interested in that reaction because I was like, that's a very interesting post because he doesn't
I
watch
mean,
movies as I do, right? Of
He's
course,
something of
yes.
a megalomaniac. He's something of a megalomaniac who
yeah,
loves attention all the time. He always grabs the mic and lady and gentlemen,
Lady and gentlemen. Yes.
lady and gentlemen, I present to you
Yes.
the boys started her. So
Yes.
that's
Yeah,
that
yeah.
Australian accent.
such
He
a
makes
operatic performance also, like
operatic
just like,
operatic of a performance, and every time, even in that one scene where in the bullet farm he's actually hiding away from Furiosa from getting shot, and still he's like chuckling throughout. He's not serious
True,
at
true.
all. That
I mean,
unseriousness.
you know who is
I mean,
mainly.
my friend was joking. So in one scene, he Dementus catches Pretor. I don't know. I couldn't
Praetorian Jack.
pronounce it.
Praetorian Jack, yes.
Pretorian Jack and Furiosa at the center of the desert, and they all circle around, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes. So
yeah,
my
yeah,
friend was
yeah, yeah, yeah.
saying that Dementus is Muthupandi, and they both of them are Vijay and Trisha from Gilly. So I was like laugh. We were like laughing.
ये
It
क्या
was
कंपैरिजन डाल दिया बीच में.
Muthupandi. So I was like, hey, are wow, that's something
ये
blown away.
क्या कंपैरिजन डाल दिया बीच में.
Only we can make that comparison.
Only we can, yes.
Muthupandi is basically, he's furious. He's with all the vengeance, but still he's
Yes.
funny. He's unserious about everything. Even his dialogue
Hmm.
delivery is unserious. That's kind of
Hmm.
Dementus is basically like, he's more
Loose
refined
cannon.
of Muthupandi character. So that
I mean,
that was
who he
really.
reminded me of? You know who he reminded me of? And full disclosure, I haven't seen this show, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't seen this show entirely. But he did remind me of Negan in The Walking Dead, which who is played by Jeffrey Dean Morgan's character.
I would not say he's very similar to that. I think.
No, no, I'm not saying he's similar to that. He reminded me of that in the entire point that this is a guy who has basically embraced the madness of the
Acha,
dystopia.
okay, the dystopia. Okay. That way the
Yeah,
conceit
Yeah,
is similar,
yeah, yeah.
but
The
I think the
conceit is similar.
aesthetics are
Aesthetics are
drive the
very different.
performance.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
yeah,
He
yeah.
has
So
Walking Dead
embraced
is a
the
very
madness.
bad conversation to have right now because I will dump on that show. But let's
No, no,
not go
I
there.
can also dump on that show. That show is something. But
So
my point being,
he
my
was just
point being,
mind blowing. I mean, Marvel
yeah, yeah, he
actors
was great.
recently after the second innings as villains, they are mind blowing. I mean, as antagonists, they are just mind blowing. Like,
Chris Evans as the villain in Grey Man wasn't mind blowing.
Gray
But
man,
chalo, jo.
loose cannon, even he's
But
no.
chalo,
It's
chalo,
it's
jo
just
bhi
it's
ho.
just it's
stash.
just basic. It's just basic cookie cutter. So that we
Also to
usually
answer,
do.
Varun, also to point out to Varun, Tom Burke is also Alan Rickman's nephew, I think, nephew or grandnephew, I think, if I'm not entirely wrong. So he has a Harry Potter connection also.
Okay.
Tom Burke,
Even
yeah, because he's
Swapnil says
also
3,000 years of longing is
yeah,
great.
yeah, yeah. So my
And
point,
Dhruv is confirming that he's Chela of Tilda. Okay,
So
continue.
that kind of a madness, we were absolutely, I mean, best performance of Chris Hemsworth. I mean, this will take him to different heights. I mean, after the embarrassment of a film like Thor Ragnarok, this was totally, sorry, Thor
you mean Love
Ragnarok,
and Thunder?
no,
You mean Love and Thunder? Yes.
Love and Thunder, sir. Love and
Not
Thunder.
No,
really.
but
This was
no, but also to people who did not know that Chris Hemsworth had a gear like this, I would highly suggest to
Black
watch
Hat.
that movie. No, no, no. क्या कह रहा है? I like that movie doesn't mean I'm going to recommend people. No, अरे Bad Times at the El Royale. Bad Times at the El Royale.
Bad Times at
Two
El Royale.
POs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bad
Two
Times
he's
is,
a
POs. I
villain
think
in
I've
that.
seen it.
He's a cult leader in that.
Yeah.
Very similar
yeah.
performance to this.
Yeah.
So
No, but I think
Like,
this
I
is
didn't.
even more unhinged in that sense. I think he's
Even
yeah,
just
more
yeah, this is
honest.
very
performing,
unhinged. Yeah,
performing, and with
yeah.
that,
But
and
and
to
the
me,
character of Dementus is pretty, he's two sides of the coin. Like he embraced the vengeance, and gone to a different route. And Furiosa also embraced the vengeance, but she's gone another different route. The two routes are pretty
oh,
different.
Bad times. Bad times at the El Royale. Yes. No, but
So the character
sorry,
of
sorry,
two
too many
sides,
comments.
antithesis and antithesis of two characters. That's really interesting to
Arey,
me.
Hmm.
Adithyan, he's basically like the comedian in The Watchmen. It's all a big fat joke. He has
Yeah,
basically
yeah,
embraced the
yeah.
nihilism of that entire world itself. That's
Exactly,
exactly
Nihilism.
what this.
Huh.
exactly.
To me,
Yeah.
the most
Cool.
interesting bit was, uh, like there is that bit where in the first chapter itself, pole of inaccessibility, I think, where
Hmm.
where the Chris like Dementus goes up to Furiosa, and he's just constantly trying to make it, mention this thing that both of them are the same people, same person.
Yes. Hmm.
And I don't think so they are the same people. But I
No,
think
I
in
also
his
don't think
head,
so.
he's just
In his
trying to
head.
make sense with the character to connect with someone, because he's
Hmm.
a person who's lost everyone, right? He's a
Hmm.
leader. He's taking care of the whole gang, but he's still trying to make that connection with Furiosa purposefully, and forcing himself to do that. And to me, that was a very interesting, you know uh, a thought for a character, because I think when you write character sketch, I think that must have been mentioned, like, this is the kind of character he is.
Yeah, but
The
again,
what Adityan mentioned, the antithesis of both
yeah, yeah.
sides, sort of. this guy's just trying to make it work for himself, even though things are
Yeah,
not working for him at all. This is what my takeaway was. And towards the end as well, when where he's just trying to say, where he's trying to convince Furiosa that,
yeah,
you and I are the same. We've lost
Yeah,
people,
but they are
right?
not. But
And
they are not.
they
That's
are
the whole
not.
point.
They are not.
Yeah.
And he's just trying to brainwash Furiosa as well, that you and I are the same. And she is getting, because she is an emotional character at that certain point, because she's lost two people who she had a great connection with, right?
Um,
yeah.
I
Two
think
people
here's where.
who basically, okay, go for it,
Bolo,
please.
bolo, bolo, bolo,
No,
bolo,
no,
फिर
go,
मैं
no, no,
बोलता
go
हूँ.
for it, go for it, go for it.
No, no. I think here's where I have two issues with, which is one of my big flaws with this movie. First flaw is
Okay,
that I think it's the design of the screenplay itself which is inherently making this movie flawed. I think because it is
okay,
quote unquote a chapter based breakdown, there are certain
yeah.
moments where you have to take into account that events happen, that you have to, you know, overall believe. So the relationship between Praetorian Jack and Furiosa having evolved into such a fashion that Furiosa, when she's captured by Dementors, is whispering to Praetorian Jack, "My Jack, my Jack." You know, it's like her being affectionate towards him, or both of them like becoming so close to each other. You know, I think I needed a bit more time on that account because
See,
I had yeah.
I agree. Okay,
Hmm.
I agree to a certain extent, but I think it does skip not just that bit, but a lot of other bits also. So to me,
Hmm.
how I tried to make sense of that was, it is working because it is consistent.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
how I tried to make
I
sense.
understand what
It
you're talking
it
about.
is
Hmm.
it is going from a slight, let's I'm putting it down in very simple terms. It is going from a certain point to a certain point. It is skipping a certain section, thinking you make that assumption. You
Yeah,
use
but
your imagination.
but
And
again,
I
but
I
again,
tried justifying it that way. But
mm,
please, I agree with your, it can be a certain criticism
yeah, and
pointed
it's a bigger
objectively.
criticism. Yeah, and it's a bigger criticism. I think because I think I'm going to bring up a statement I had brought up in my Jubilee review as well. There are elements within screenplays. There are elements within screenplays that won't be explained to you or won't be shown to you in the movie. The responsibility or the onus is then on the actors to elevate that section such that the audience can understand that, oh, you are supposed to believe this relationship. The onus is on the actors there. I don't think, and this is just my opinion, I don't think that Tom Burke and Anya Taylor Joy had that much of a chemistry for me to believe that there is a love story within this burnt out dystopia that Furiosa would be so affected by. Okay, that's
Okay, okay.
yeah.
I will try to justify it, but please go ahead after you finish.
I do like the fact I do like the fact that uh, Furiosa effectively trusting Max in Fury Road becomes retroactively convincing because from from the outset, from a distance, when Tom Burke walks into the frame, he looks very much like Mad Max 2 Road
Mel
Warriors,
Gibson.
Mel
Gibson.
Gibson's Mad Max. Yes,
I
so it's like
wanted to
that.
say that as well.
That's a visual cue, and I'm like, oh, okay, so that's what you're trying to do, that's what you're trying to focus on, that's what you're also trying to make us realize, that Furiosa trusting Mad Max is also a element of her past, because
Hmm.
Max somehow reminded her of Praetorian Jack to a certain degree.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So these parts I like, but there are some elements I did miss.
I will try
So
to justify that, saying, okay, uh, in the scene, I think it is kind of established. I mean, you jump time, right? When she has herself become a Praetorian,
interrogator, yeah, yeah,
Furiosa,
yeah, yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think when we jump that, I think there is a certain ease in the relationship where
Hmm.
she gets stabbed, right? When they go to Gas Town, right? In that whole
Hmm.
riot, and he
Hmm.
kind of, bandages that wound in the truck itself, and you kind of understand that they have eased into this relationship now with each other, right? They're
Hmm.
comfortable. She's letting her drive the rig now. So I
Hmm.
think those were my cues to understand that they have gotten close to each other.
Hmm.
And in that scene, when he's bandaging her at night, right,
Hmm.
uh,
Hmm. Hmm.
in the hills of
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
in the
In the
citadel,
creek.
and
Citadel, yeah.
when he asks her, like where is this map, what is this map for, and all that.
Hmm.
And she kind of shuns him in a certain way, like because she thinks that
Yeah.
he might also have that certain perspective, but he doesn't. And then there is a
Hmm.
certain uh, affinity that she's like, okay, maybe he's the person with whom I'll go back to the green place,
Hmm.
right? And for me those were the cues that they have gotten close to each other. So
Hmm.
that's how I try to justify that this
Yeah, yeah.
is, I think,
No, no,
working for me.
I get the screenplay cues which are trying to explain. All I'm saying is, I think from an acting perspective, I needed a bit more to buy into that
maybe
relationship. I
maybe
did
more expression in that
more
sense.
expression somewhat, because
Maybe. Huh.
because like
I
say
will not disagree.
because Anya Taylor Joy as an actress is very good at playing stoic characters, or characters who are very intense, right? Like
Hmm.
ध्रुव का फेवरेट मूवी द नॉर्थमैन, उसमें भी उसका कैरेक्टर
Northman,
वैसा ही, या उसमें भी उसका
best
कैरेक्टर वैसा
mention.
ही, यस उसमें भी उसका कैरेक्टर वैसा ही है. और इवन से इन द क्वींस गैम्बिट,
I've not
Yeah,
seen that.
yeah,
yeah,
in the
that's
queen's gambit
great
show, I
performance.
think the show itself is great,
Great
but I think
performance.
Yeah.
even there her performance is very stoic, very intense. i
Okay.
think I think Furiosa's character, because this is a movie that is so inbuilt on Furiosa, I think
Yeah.
Furiosa's interiority, I would have bought more into Anya Taylor Joy's performance as Furiosa's interiority if she had been Furiosa the entire movie. The
Hmm.
screenplay's construction is such that we had to also digest the fact that there is a younger version of Furiosa we had to acclimatize to. And the problem is
Hmm.
that younger version of Furiosa is so good. That actress is so good. By the way, she's so good. So
The
good. She does it
child
so
actor
well
is
with
so,
Yeah.
her
so
eyes.
good.
There's
Yes, so
there's a
great.
very
Yeah,
great transition also, I think. Like I didn't
yeah,
even
yeah,
realize when Anya was
yeah.
playing that role, because I was like, this is
Yeah,
seamless
yeah,
in that sense.
Yeah. So
exactly.
that actress was so good. I'm like she's excellent, and that is why when
Hmm.
Anya's version gets it, I was slightly missing that younger actress.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, okay
uh,
then. I mean, good one, but still, I understand why Anya is in this. So, but again, you get the idea. Those are my
hmm.
mainly two flaws in a way. I understand that the
Adityan,
movie. Yeah, go ahead.
what did you think of
Yeah, so
Dementors and
I love Demon, as I said, the goofy villain, totally love.
yeah,
As I already said everything. So basically, I loved this character. Favorite out of all the my favorite character. Totally this year's favorite character for
yeah,
me. I mean, favorite performance. Undoubtedly,
yeah, I
he will
think
be cashing in some good laurels in the award season. I
I
suppose.
hope he does, first of
Yes.
all, because I think this is in general, he's he's performed that, he's doing that whole spectrum. For me, that is the more important thing. But I
Yeah.
think I want to transition from here, from Dementors to major spoilers, the finale of the film, the
Hmm.
revenge bit. And
Hmm.
what did you think of the interpretation of the revenge part? um, Certainly of what it basically culminated to, the scene before we see what happens with Dementors. So if you have not seen the film up until this point, if you've been hearing about this film, in my
Spoil
opinion,
तो
I
हो
think
ही
this is a
चुके हो.
major spoiler.
Yeah.
Spoil ho hi chuke ho,
Yeah.
but please go watch the film and then listen to this part.
Hmm.
What did you think of how it ended? Because to me, I think it was a great left turn into a territory I did not expect it to go. And for me, that was not just a surprise, but I was happier that it ended this way, because it's not going the traditional route. Because I don't know how my catharsis for this revenge would have come from. Mutilating him, I don't know if it would have felt the same way of catharsis,
It has been
or
very in the
just,
realm of the senses somewhat, but I don't think.
I mean, yes, but again, older, that's a different film only. But the way it reaches to that point, I was like, probably it just
I think
elevated the film for me from a certain level to a certain level, a notch higher for sure.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
then it came for me in that list of one of the finest revenge films. How vengeance has sort of evolved, like how I mentioned. So, what did you guys think?
I
Adityan?
think
What did you think of the
it's
ending?
something like Vinland's. It's something like Vinland Saga kind of route. I would say Vinland
yes.
Saga
What is
I was
Vinland
watching
Saga?
the movie. Okay,
anime.
Adityan, you explain film में बता दो.
So Vinland
You
basically the Vinland Saga anime kind of anime. The character Thorfinn, he goes on to revenge. He goes on to go for wars, everything, and suddenly he gets really, why am I doing this? Why should
Yeah.
what's the point? I have lost everything. What's the point? So he basically goes into peaceful. I have no enemies arc. So that kind of an arc, I didn't expect from Furiosa. To totally honest, I thought, okay, that's just kill her, just kill him, man, just kill him. That's the kind of catharsis I
Also,
was
also,
expecting.
also,
Hmm.
Adityan, Vinland Saga एक और comparison है, but I don't think the movie does it really that much.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Dementus is
I don't,
kind
I
of like
don't, not
Askeladd.
that. I mean, Vilna Saga is got to
Dementus is,
get
mm,
two seasons of an anime. That kind of
yeah,
a
yeah,
transition, not uh, one scene you
in
won't
a
get it.
movie.
I understand. Yeah, yeah, you
Dementus is
can't
kind
get it
of
in a
like
movie.
Askeladd, right? Dementus, if Furiosa is
Yeah, yeah,
Thorfinn, Dementus is kind of like Askeladd only in a way, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Somewhat.
yeah, yeah.
Explain it to people who don't know Vinland Saga, please, Amartya.
No, no. I think Vinland Saga is basically the story of one kid, Norwegian
Viking.
kid during the era of the
Hmm.
Vikings. Okay,
Okay.
who gets kidnapped by pirates and his father would be brutally murdered. Okay, and
Okay.
the kid wants to take revenge, but he understands that he can't take revenge because he's not capable enough to take revenge on the man who had murdered him. So he
Hmm.
decides that he is going to stay with the pirates and he is going to train himself and he's going to become strong enough so that one day he can kill the pirate leader. So
Hmm.
there is always a
That is
combative
Furiosa.
relationship. Yeah, basically like Furiosa. So there is a
It's Furiosa.
combative relationship between him and the pirate leader, which ultimately becomes very, I don't know, very confusing, very conflicting also in a way, because that
Yeah,
pirate leader becomes like a father figure. And
yeah,
at the end, not even at the end, it's like the story also slightly becomes like an anti-war. No, it's not Gangs of New York, F off. So it's like the story also becomes kind of like anti-war also in a way, because
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, he's like anti-revenge. He's like, I'm losing everything in this quest to justify my anger
Hmm.
against an event that is so behind my past that I can't even remember my father's face. It's like it became
Okay.
that much effective
yeah.
throughout.
How long is the
Yeah,
show? How many seasons?
two
Two
seasons so
seasons
far. So
so
far.
far.
So far. Okay, then I'm not even
Yeah,
going
so
there.
far. Hmm.
But what did you think of the ending, Amartya? Like,
And
what was?
that ending
I
reminded me of, I didn't expect. I expected them to say, he left her in the desert. She left him in the desert. That would not have been effective if they had been in the desert. But the tree, he has grown into a tree, that reminded me of
I
poison
mean
tree.
to Arvind. I mean to Arvind. If you see Vinland Saga, I don't think that would be the conclusion you will drive after watching the show. But anyway,
So yes, so training master. Okay, it reminded me of Poison Tree, the William Blake poem. I was angry with my friend, that poem.
nice,
That,
Hmm.
so that
nice,
my
nice.
friend, I didn't get the idea, but one of my friend actually said that, hey, this might have been influenced from the poem. Then reading today about some journals on Mad Max, they are saying that George Miller took influence from T.S. Eliot's Wasteland poem. Wasteland. So basically,
Okay.
that Wasteland poem is having all the descriptions of how the modern world will transition to. So that hero's journey, the hero's
Hmm. Hmm.
journey,
Hmm.
how desolation makes the hero. Everything sort of everything that T.S. Eliot poem has. So
Yeah.
basically archetypal criticism 101 again.
Yeah, yeah, completely,
Hmm.
completely. Yeah.
So that's, I mean, if Furiosa has been told in ancient times, during ancient times or something, we would have revered as gods. We would have worshipped as gods. Worship Furiosa, Dementus. We have worshipped as gods. I would say
Hmm.
that kind of a mythological lore. This was totally. If this was told in ancient times or somewhere, they inscribed in hieroglyphics, stones or anything, this would have
Hmm.
been something like we would have worshipped as gods. In fact, I mean, I'm not exaggerating. This is the truth of every lore we have come across. So that's so
Hmm.
brilliant. That's so brilliant.
Yeah.
Ending was.
I think when the chapter itself started, it said beyond vengeance,
Beyond
and
Vengeance, yes.
Yeah.
And at that time we've seen so much of this world, I think, and we've been so much with the character that it kind of justifies itself that it doesn't end in that generic way. It's not
Yeah.
Yeah.
about differentiation, but it's about what the character was, right? And for the character, vengeance was not the culmination of her life. Her culmination of life is saving those women from Immortan Joe, which happens in Fury Road. That is
Yes.
why the film doesn't end at vengeance. It sort of, you see the flashes of Fury Road, the film which take place
Yeah.
through credit, right?
Yeah,
I think
I
that
would have
is
to
what
say that was a bad choice. I would have to say that was a bad choice.
you
You
why
should. No, I don't think, because if people hadn't seen Fury Road, I don't know
uh,
why would people would be watching Furiosa without having seen Fury Road. But if people hadn't seen Fury Road, I think that was kind of spoiling it. And if I'm going to do a double feature with Fury Road as George Miller intends it to
no,
be,
but I would see, I don't think so there are spoilers per se in Fury Road, because Fury Road is
yeah,
a different sort of film that
Beast.
way. But I feel that is what the filmmaker wanted to intend, right? That her culmination of journey isn't, you know, that the vengeance is not the end of her life, or wasn't what
Yes.
she was looking for. At the end
Not the
was saving
purpose.
those women. She had
hmm,
her
That's
other
the
purpose.
purpose.
That is that, like,
Hero's purpose.
so that for me elevate, that is what I was saying. Like, I think that elevated Fury Road for me to another level,
yes,
because
Yeah.
that
exactly.
is was not just Mad Max's story, it was Furiosa's story as well. Like, their co, you know,
Hmm.
uh,
Co-leads.
co-protagonists,
Yeah.
co-leads,
Hmm.
or whatever. And then the moment of the green place in Fury Road became even sadder, right?
Yeah,
Melancholia
Yeah.
exactly.
sort of then seeps through the film. Like, so that for me was just so interesting to watch, like where we are with the character and how the character is sort of affecting us as well in retrospect also. That for me was just great storytelling in general. So yeah. um
So, A Poison Tree by William Blake. Okay,
mm,
because I suddenly remembered, and thank you for reminding me of this. I think George Miller took that poem a little bit too literally.
Yes.
Because,
okay.
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah, in the poem, he's like, okay, I'm going to read this poem. It's a very short poem, don't worry. I was angry with my friend. I told my wrath did end. I was
Hmm.
angry with my foe. I told it not, my wrath did grow. Okay.
Hmm.
And I watered it in fears, night and morning with my tears, and I sunned it with smiles and with soft, deceitful wiles. And it grew both day and night, till it bore an apple bright, and my foe beheld it shine,
Hmm.
and he knew that it was mine. Okay? And into my garden stole, where the night had veiled the pole. In the morning, glad I see my foe outstretched beneath the tree.
Hmm.
I think he took it a bit too
It
literally,
is.
especially the
Little too
ending.
I
little.
mean, it's then it's sort of an adaptation into the whole
Yeah,
story
somewhat.
of Furiosa that way. It's
Yeah,
interesting. I had no idea about this at all. So,
yeah.
Exactly.
hmm.
Even I
Any more
didn't.
any more points that you guys want to add before we move on to the comments, and then uh, can
I
wrap up the
mean, for
stream on
people,
time? Yeah,
for
hopefully.
people who might be disappointed with the ending, sort of, I
Hmm.
would say that it's also very much a very Mad Max thing to do, because none of the other three movies were very similar
Hmm.
to each other.
Yeah.
All of them
Exactly.
had huge left swerves.
Yeah.
like बियॉन्ड थंडरडम तो अलग ही लेवल में टर्न मारता है.
Yeah.
So
It's
it's
it's a
like,
different world only. Like,
yeah,
it's going in a different zone.
yeah.
Yeah.
So again, I mean, after watching Furiosa and watching all the three movies, I am appreciating Furiosa and Fury Road even more because of how weird those
Hmm.
three movies are.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
Exactly.
Hmm.
the way Furiosa ends, I'm like, if this is the dystopia where nothing grows, you know,
Yeah.
uh, and growth is being shown as some sort of a revenge from where,
Yeah.
Furiosa's world and the green place kind of sort of will start to grow through the citadel itself, because
Yeah.
that's what Furiosa's ending also suggests, that she's going to lead the citadel now. So
Hmm.
that's what that tree also signifies. uh,
Yeah.
I liked it. I was like, interesting way to do it, but
Poetic.
sure, I mean, it's a pretty left turn. I like left
Hmm.
turns.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
It's very weird, but I mean, it's a staple of Mad Max anyway.
Yeah.
Weirdness.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Adityan, any last
Yeah.
few thoughts?
last few thoughts is something. He if Mad Max Fury Road is chaotic beauty.
Hmm.
Furious is beauty in the chaos for me,
Yeah,
Hmm.
because
more methodical in its madness, somewhat. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
more methodical is madness and everything is so clean and classic. This would become a great classic if recently read the box office reports is pretty much disappointing. They're saying so. I think this would be a
Seriously,
cult classic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's a pity. Yeah, yeah, it's not
I
good.
didn't see, but that's sad
that's
Yeah,
because
a
it
it's
cult.
not.
is.
But after a month, it will become like a cult classic or something. I am expecting to become a cult classic, and
I
everyone
think if
this will
people
become a
don't
cult
watch it in
horror.
cinema, you're missing out on a
You're
great
missing out on a huge.
experience.
You're missing out on a
Boss, in the beginning
great
itself,
experience.
Yeah,
when you hear that car revving and that junkie
Yes.
XL score, and
Yeah.
you don't
yeah,
get those shivers in your seat while you're sitting, I don't you want that sensory experience. Absolutely.
it's definitely sensory experience. Absolutely. And I
So
and I
it's
and
like,
and
go for it, go for it.
George Miller said that he says that about saturation of colors in post-apocalyptic stories. He doesn't like it, so he wants to make it vibrant. And the vibrancy
Hmm.
here in this film, I could witness a lot in this film. The
Because
colors
of
are
the
so
sky
crisp,
also. Yeah,
so crisp.
you can
I
see
mean,
the
compared to
blue skies
Fury
with
Road itself, this
warmer
is too
roads.
crisp. This is too crisp of an image. Image is too
Big,
crisp. It's too crisp.
because dystopian stories are restricted to just doing monotone colors, right? Very
Yeah,
Yes, exactly.
single.
Yeah,
black,
yeah.
If you look at
gloomy.
the color chart, you can see just very certain color tone.
Mm,
And I think he wanted to move away from that because I
Yeah,
yes.
think he's probably viewing it in a certain
yeah,
perspective.
that
But I think also interestingly, even in the screenplay of the film, it is putting the characters always in difficult situations, and that
Yes.
for me is the bigger achievement because you're always not giving easier consequences
exactly.
to actions. And as much as Fury Road was a film that was very reactionary in the narrative, in its narrative, right? The Furiosa and Mad Max's journey in that is very reactionary to Immortan Joe's chase, right? Him chasing
Mm,
them down. I
Yeah,
think it is the opposite here. It is the action that sort of reverses reactions
yeah.
from others around
yeah,
in the world. So I think that inward sort of look becomes interesting to explore in general. And the screenplay again, when I thought that when they're trying to escape from Bullet Farm, I
bullet.
Mm,
thought they'll get away sort of, but no,
yeah.
No,
he catches up to
they
them
caught the
like a
catches up
beast. Yeah.
Mm.
and
totally.
and I was like, this is interesting because I did not expect them to be caught, and I thought he might just leave them as like dead bodies in the car, but he doesn't. He punishes them. He kills Praetorian Jack. So
Again, it's like Furiosa losing her hand and getting a prosthetic. That had
Yeah,
consequences.
yeah,
That is not like a wink and wink nod ki, hey look, the hand is gone. You remember the hand, the prosthetic? No, the hand is gone pretty
no,
brutally, by the way.
brutal,
yeah.
exactly. And to me, that was just so
Wow,
interesting that
that was
all of that
yeah.
that happened to arrive at that point. So
And she
definitely,
just
if
rides the bike. That was something so amazing. That was something
and it's a
so
very
shocking.
insane moment. I don't know.
Insane moment for me.
Also, cameo by Mad Max
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
it's
2 seconds. Yeah, two
I
seconds.
too
yeah.
had
It
Just
sounds
came.
audiences
like
in the
it.
background just telling someone, "Arey, that is Mad Max." I was like, "Oh, thank you, bro, for telling me."
Thank you, bro. Thank you, bro. Tom
We are
Hardy ka
laughing.
stuntman. Tom Hardy ka
Yes,
stuntman
yeah.
Yeah,
was the
yeah. It
guy.
was very
Yeah, yeah.
obvious, very
Yeah,
obvious.
yeah. Also,
But
also speaking, Adityan, like you were mentioning the game, right? So,
Yeah.
the Mad Max game, the 2015 game that had come out, that was designed to be quote unquote a tie-in to Mad Max Fury Road. Okay, so
Yeah,
that
yeah,
is why Warner Brothers was initially commissioned to make the game, but then Warner Brothers sold the game rights to Avalanche
yeah.
Studios. But that is why they had a lot of George Miller ka notes. Okay, overall notes about Max's journey
hmm,
through everything.
Yeah,
That is why there are some characters of the game that you will see in the movie, like
yeah.
Scarberus Scrotus, that is one of the sons of
the
Immortal
Sons
Joe.
of Immortan Joe.
Not a joke.
He is in the game. He's also in the movie, but movie ka version is very different from game ka version. Okay, because
Okay,
game ka designing
Yeah,
is completely different.
Yeah.
Similarly, there is a mechanic called Chum Bucket in the game. He's also in this movie.
Yeah.
He's the mechanic who Furiosa goes to meet while checking a new car. He's
Ah.
the
Hmm.
he's the chota mutated guy. That is
Yeah.
Chum
Hmm.
Bucket. He's voiced by the same guy who voices him in the game. So it's like
Okay.
it's less of a tie-in to the game and more of a tie-in to the fact that
Expansion.
Yeah, it's more of a George Miller ka notes being prevalent everywhere.
Hmm.
That is exactly what it
Expansion.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's more of an
Yeah.
expansion, which is why I
I,
think if one takes into account how the game goes, the
yeah.
2015 Mad Max game, how it goes, I think if George Miller ever gets a chance, he has told us that he will explore Mad Max: The Wasteland. That is
The
the
sequel, which
no,
Sequel.
was
not the
supposedly.
sequel. It's a prequel which will explore Tom Hardy's Max's character until the journey to Fury Road.
Okay. I
Yeah,
didn't know
that
that.
will
I thought Wasteland was
Yeah.
supposed to be what happens after Fury Road. And I
no,
was
no,
very
no,
interested because I was like, I'm just game because I'm like, I want to know what happens after this. And
no, no.
because how Furiosa's screenplay turned out to be, right? Putting
Mhm.
characters in situations and not taking easy routes, right? As a
Mhm.
writing process. I was curious how you follow up to Fury Road. But since it is not that, again, I'm still curious to know what
Yeah,
He's
so if
actually interested
Wasteland,
in making more prequels on the franchise, on the universe, then making sequels. He says that Mad Max
interesting.
Fury Road is the climax. Is the
yeah,
climax of the Mad Max
Okay.
universe.
Okay,
and
So
okay. I
if
he
didn't
you
know
look
that.
at
doesn't.
how,
He's not
and
really
if you
interested
look
in
at how
making sequels.
yeah, and if you look at how Furiosa goes, and if you look at the pacing of Fury Road itself, Fury Road feels like a climax. It feels like a 2 hour climax.
Hmm.
Exactly.
Hmm.
It feels
Correct,
Yeah.
correct,
entirely like
correct.
a 2 hour climax.
So when you watch the whole thing in as a
Yeah,
whole, kind of makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
More
I
peaceful.
really wish this sort of somehow works in the longer run, because
Hmm.
that's how Fury Road also worked. I think word of mouth caught up, and then it sort of did really well
Yeah. Yeah.
in the longer run. Please, if
Even
anyone who's watching this episode, go
Fury
watch
Road.
this film in theaters.
Yeah.
Uh,
Definitely. Absolutely. 10
yeah,
by 10 recommend. Absolutely.
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
but
yeah.
we can
but
do
I expected a lot actually from the audience. I expected a lot from audience. I mean, like a few, like for a Furiosa kind of film, the audience should get all the references and everything. They should clap and
Yeah,
cheer. Like, but
exactly.
that, but sadly, even though the half, as I said earlier, the half occupancy thing, still we were the only we and the 10 guys group at the front only were shouting like anything and cheering like anything and geeking out basically. So
Hmm.
I think, I
basically
think,
that's
uh, I think here's a bigger problem. Like the movie came out on Thursday. Thursday was a holiday, right? Buddha Purnima, I think Thursday was a holiday.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
didn't
it
know.
was a
yeah,
holiday.
yeah.
Yeah. So uh, I I think holidays should have contributed more somewhat, at least in India.
Hmm.
I genuinely think one of the bigger problems that is occurring right now is the fact that people are not going to movie theaters for the simple reason that people just don't want to go to the movie theaters. It's an expensive
I think
thing to go.
it is
It's a
expensive thing also, a lot
it's a
of
very
contributing
expensive.
factors.
Yeah.
I think there has been a certain film exhaustion that has happened post like
Yeah.
last year, let's say. And I think heat, the summer is sort of
Heat is a
contributing to
massive
that,
thing. Yeah, 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 yeah.
because
Yeah.
Heat is
morning
massive.
to afternoon you can't get out of your houses. It's
No.
just horrible to do that. So all
Hmm.
these things do contribute, but if you're able to watch this film, I think you should definitely catch it in theater, because
Hmm.
then it sort of will boil down to the fact that you missed out on something that is actually great, like
Hmm.
great with like bold capital letters, like underlined.
Also, also there is a
Sanjeet,
also
I,
there is a basic prequel exhaustion also, because people are like, why should we
Possible,
watch a prequel? There is a
but
basic prequel exhaustion as well.
but
it's just sad.
this isn't the usual prequel, man. That I would say.
No, but none of us knew that. Nah, that is why
Yeah,
we went
yeah,
there and we
exactly.
realized that this is not the usual prequel. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what
yeah.
happened.
This is not the usual. It's not the
I
Yeah.
usual.
think we
And
can do
and
comments and okay, huh?
and
Go for it, go for it.
Sanjeet, you said you watched it in IMAX, but the film was not
I
shot in
didn't watch
IMAX
in IMAX.
camera. So,
Amartya watched in IMAX. I
so
watched
And
in
yeah,
normal theaters.
is
yeah,
the IMAX really good or stretched out or something?
it's
Like,
mildly stretched out. Mildly stretched out. Yeah, yeah.
okay.
Again,
I
I'm like, this is
I
not your
think
UK ka IMAX.
if the sound system is good, I don't think so.
Yeah, yeah.
Visually, it'll work for you, sort of in a very good way. Don't worry about it. But let's do comments and then I think we can wrap it because there's so many
Yeah,
of them that have happened. There's
yeah.
a certain Peaky Blinders conversation that happened parallelly. But to answer Arvind first, Manjumel Boys episode will come out with Devi
Adu Jivitam.
once Adu Jivitam is out online because we are yet to watch that film.
We are
And
yet to
Adu
watch
I
Jivitam
watched
also.
it.
and Manjumel will get combined as a whole. So please
Yes.
do check it out once it does come out.
Yeah.
Swapnil, you can please go watch that film. It will you will really like it. Boy and Heron is something to check out on
Hmm.
your own.
Massive.
Jalpaiguri Max.
I was
We
in
watch it in
Kolkata, bro.
Kolkata.
I was in Kolkata for a week. Sorry to not inform you.
Yeah. Poor performance of the film. It is just sad because I don't. I mean, there are so many factors to contribute. There's so much to watch in general. There's football. There's IPL. There's so much in general that
IPL is a
people can
massive
do.
thing. IPL is a massive thing
Yeah.
also, but
Politics
Yeah,
genuinely
also is a
speaking,
contributing factor in general
yeah, yeah, of
because
course. But also
the talk of the
genuinely,
town.
but in
I genuinely think that one of the bigger reasons, and this is true, I think movie watching itself is becoming a very expensive affair.
it's a fair.
It is.
It's
It is.
becoming ludicrous. It's becoming ludicrous at this point, and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
especially, yeah, I think
Arey,
quality
yaar,
of the
I
movie.
think a bigger problem is also the exhibition, right? We've
Yeah, yeah.
also spoken about how the number of screens that we have less, right? So
Hmm.
less in comparison to US and China, we have very less screens for a cinema dominated country, right? A bigger thing is that. Also, I remember when I was in Germany or like it's so easy to go watch a film there. Like you get out of your house, you take a train and just a stop later you can just get into cinema. It's that
Hmm.
easy. Okay, you don't have to think about it so much. Here you have to take into account traffic, travel time. Then sometimes the films might get cancelled because there are less occupancy. So all these factors do contribute into just and it's a sheer stupidity on the exhibition face of it. And I used to really back like a couple of years back I was very happy with PVR because I was like at least they're putting out films. They were putting out Parasite and whatnot, right? Which nobody else would do. But the cons have sort of increased so much now that you're like, yaar, इससे अच्छा तो मत ही दिखाओ. Why are you even
Yeah,
like bothering, right? So many cons, right? And the amount the pricing of the films and just it's just insane. At least in the northern states I can say the pricing is really bad. I remember watching films in Hyderabad which is not so much. I remember watching in
Yeah,
Chennai also, it's not so much.
not so much.
again,
Bangalore is
it's a
again
single.
on the higher
Not
side,
yet.
so
Again, it's the screen. It's the
Bangalore
screen.
beyond takes.
It's a single screen culture itself, right? It's a single screen culture which is
it's
completely dead now,
yeah,
and
we need to bring it up somehow.
theaters being multiplex throughout, multiplex heavy throughout. When even if ticket prices are okay during the weekdays, like the
Yeah.
concession prices are insane. You can't do that. How long can you survive through that insane pricing? Exactly, na. हाँ एग्जैक्टली फायदा क्या है अ,
Mm,
मेरा मेरा टिकट का प्राइस है 150 मेरा कंसेशन में प्राइस चला जाता है 600 तो फायदा क्या है
yeah. No, but as Arvind said, no, torrent is definitely not the solution. We will not uh, promote that at all. Please, let's not do that because that eats up a lot of things in general.
if we
I
say,
don't
Close to
and if we
100.
say that and if we say that film industry के लोग जो ना लोग आगे कहेंगे कि हम लोग क्या कर रहे हैं
I think
we are the problem yeah because we 2% are the problem not the innumerable number of people who are not going to watch your movies yeah.
also so
If
I
Varun
I
is
think
free,
the performance of poor performance of accounts to like in India basically Mad Max Saga is in something of cultural phenomenon in recent times like Marvel or DC. Now Deadpool and Wolverine is coming. You can see how the footfalls are coming in India. So
hmm,
that's the big thing I would say. I
I
mean,
think
वो
maybe
people are
June
I'm
June
not.
sorry.
onwards we'll
I'm
pick
sorry
up
to
the
say this.
business.
Yeah, I'm sorry to say this. वो फिल्म एक वाहियात फिल्म होगा ठीक है आई एम सीरियसली टेलिंग यू इट्स नॉट गोइंग टू बी
You're
गुड
predicting it to be not good.
आई एम प्रेडिक्टिंग इट टू बी नॉट गुड
It's, it's,
आई
it's,
Okay.
it's it has to be good or it is neither to be bad. There's no in between. I would say
yeah
Um,
there's no in between. There's no
as
in
Varun
between.
says, torrent cannot be the solution because it does not drive revenue at all. Not for new films, at least.
yeah
Yeah.
But Adithyan, the film has bombed worldwide, so it's a sad.
Yes.
also
Yeah,
No,
gets
no,
some
I
yeah,
think
decent money.
worldwide
exactly.
bombing, I think the basic point of
I
worldwide bombing is the fact that theater experience is becoming very expensive where people don't want to spend so much money. That's basically
yeah
it.
That's recently Gen Zs are not coming to not coming for cinemas. In New York Times, I read an article.
सर
yeah.
जेन जी सर
That's
जेन जी को
something.
सर जेन जी को टिकटॉक पसंद है, जेन
That's
जी को
something.
टिकटॉक
That's
पसंद है, और जेनी निकोलसन का 4 आवर का स्टार वॉर्स वीडियो पसंद है। जेन जी को मूवीज
I
पसंद
mean,
है।
recently I'm being appointed as a curator for a film festival we are
Huh.
अरे
organizing.
नाइस,
So
Nice.
children's film
कांग्रेचुलेशन।
festival. So when I asked for Alliance Francaise, so Pondicherry, so basically they said that they want to make short films more than feature films because they say that children can't sit through 2 hours of a film like theaters. So
दैट इज ट्रू।
that's so
But
I
I
had
think that is
we had to
I
break
you
out. We had to curate the film based on the, what kind of engagement this film will get. I can't really put out the bicycle
hmm.
thieves or anything like sort of a film to the kids, recent kids, to new
No,
kids,
but you also
new
have to
teens.
build that culture at the end of
Yeah,
the day,
but
right?
at the end of the day, so we are trying to fuse the classics and fuse the modern ones, fuse everything to get a great film festival experience for the children, young adults. So basically, all
Yeah.
the old world and new world connections. That
Also
was
Find
something
the
couple of
I
middle
am
things,
ground,
trying.
right? Find
also
the middle
couple
I'm
of
ground.
trying
things to
to
consider.
find. We tried
Yeah.
to find a middle, and we put out a good list. I
Hmm.
suppose. I suppose we put out a good list today. We finalized it. So
Okay.
basically, I could experience that. But I would say that I come on. These New York Times, they are like boomers. Boomers always pointing out Gen Z. But sadly, when we are in the process of something, organizing to the outer world of not from the bubble of social media bubble,
Hmm,
so
hmm, hmm.
Hmm.
that's something hard. That's something hard to digest of a fact, basically. And
Hmm.
Varun says
No,
Tamil
we
Nadu is the
also,
best place to watch a film.
it
Definitely.
is, it
But
is, it
but
is
I would say,
100%.
but sadly, in Pondicherry there is the biggest screen in Pondicherry is Balaji Cinemas. It's totally the
I
biggest
think
screen I've
Aryan
ever
went
seen.
there to watch Ponian Selvan, I think.
Yeah, that's the totally
Aryan.
biggest screen. Even
Hmm.
PVR Inox is PVR in Pondicherry is not that big compared to that. I would have loved to see Furiosa in that screen, but sadly Furiosa was not
Hmm.
there. There was only Aranmanai 4.
Oh my god.
Jesus Christ. Oh,
And Aranmanai
They're
4,
releasing the
and I
Hindi
gotta
dub
tell you
version
guys,
in.
and Aranmanai 4 is a box office hit,
I
75
know
oh
crores.
God.
it's going to
Oh
touch 100. They're saying
God.
Yeah.
Oh
first hit for
God.
proper clean hit
Ta-
for Tamil
Tamil
cinema
cinema.
this year, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But
exactly.
I think the
Revenue.
Also,
year hasn't started for Tamil cinema this year. I think it's going to start
Yeah,
after
yeah,
June.
also
definitely.
here's the thing. Also, here's the thing we also need to consider. Okay, this is going to be, this also I want to bring up. All the people who are losing their minds, all the box office pundits who are losing their minds. I'm not talking about you, Varun. Don't worry, you are not in Twitter. I'm talking about all these people who are just climbing up and down and screaming, "Death, death of cinema! Cinema is dead." I'm just saying one very simple thing. Okay, if you are expecting a box office similar to Marvel movies and Avengers Endgame, that time is gone.
Yeah.
Pandemic has destroyed it. That time is gone.
2019, it was a different
20,
world. After
it was a
2019,
different
it's a
world.
totally different.
It's a
Yeah.
totally
Yeah.
different world. You guys need to change your metrics. And if you
Hmm.
really want a similar sort of box office to come back, you really need to design movies and movie marketing as an event. Otherwise, Oppenheimer and Barbie Barbenheimer, you need to
No,
make
but
something like that.
I feel it's a cycle. In my opinion, it has
It,
always been a cycle.
hmm,
I think
Yeah,
right now we are in a different cycle. Maybe
yes,
exactly.
5, 6 years down the line, we'll be back in the 2015 to 2019 cycle where smaller films
Exactly.
also sort of were working in cinemas to a
hmm,
large extent, right? So
yes,
I think we will be back in that cycle. Right now, this cycle does not compensate in the same way how it used to before. So I think it is going to be there. We just need to support as much as we can because I think we have loved this art form to a certain degree. So that if
hmm,
we can support in our own way, I think we should. And I think this is
hmm,
what this podcast is for as well, to support, for reaching out to people that so that they're convinced to watch something which is actually good, right? So
Also,
yeah,
many movies are like becoming stupidly expensive. Like I can understand Furiosa being expensive. Furiosa looks expensive. It looks gorgeous.
yeah,
It is supposed to be expensive,
Worth
but there
every
are
bit.
movies that are very stupidly expensive for no reason whatsoever. And for that,
yeah.
I have to ask, why is it so expensive? Stars ki
It's
fees katao. Stars ki
yeah.
fees
I mean,
katao.
I think we again have gotten back into that rut of stars being the mainstay after pandemic. I think
हाँ
it is
मतलब
again a
हाँ
phase.
मतलब you
We'll
guys हाँ
again go
मतलब
back to, you
हम्म
remember 2018-19, we didn't
yeah,
have one star film working technically in
हम्म
Hindi,
हम्म हम्म
I
हम्म
would say,
हम्म.
because which is largely dominating force in Indian cinema. I mean, Telugu was for like last 2 years, but now it's again back to Hindi cinema being the bigger force. So I think it is a phase. We will get back to older like just
Yeah,
different metrics, not same old metrics.
it took film studios. It took film studios 5 movies to finally understand that Tiger Shroff is not a box office draw. हमारा बात ही सुन लेते, हमारा बात ही सुन लेते.
I think we need to wrap up the episode very soon. So just quick questions. Arvind asks, can we expect episodes on books with Varun? It depends on Varun being free, and
Yeah,
I don't know if he's free anytime soon.
yeah.
That's why PVR started Playhouse, which is for kids. I mean, they were playing in PVR Playhouse the what is that film with Frances McDormand, which she won Academy Award for? Nomadland.
Uh,
They were
Nomadland,
playing
yes.
Nomadland in PVR
Nomadland in
Playhouse in
Playhouse.
Bangalore. Yes, in 2021.
Wow.
I think Feb or March.
बच्चे लोग would be like, मम्मी
Oh shit!
मुझे सोना है. मम्मी मुझे
Oh my
सोना है.
god!
Stupidly
Insane.
expensive. What to say? Instead of
Instead of
watching
yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
totally, 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 totally.
that was big.
Wow.
Yes. 10
Yes.
years from
10
the
years, sir.
jail.
हाँ, टाइगर श्रॉफ का
Quick, we have to wrap up the episode in literally 2 minutes because
कान
that's
पे
the
टिप्पणी कर दो क्या टिप्पणी कर दे I mean I understand what Swapnil is going for, so टिप्पणी in the sense that congratulations to Payal Kapadia uh,
Pile Kapadia for the win. Yes.
for
Great
the
win,
win.
whatever
Great
sense.
win, congratulations, great win. A huge boo, massive boo to FTII. Shame on you people if you think that you are going to take credit for that. You people are not involved in any of it. Payal Kapadia's success is despite your presence, not in spite of your
Yeah.
presence. It's despite your
Hmm.
presence, it's despite everything else. And also, congratulations to
Hello,
Anushka
Devalina.
Sengupta. Congratulations to Anushka Sengupta. Congratulations to all the Indian films that have been in the competition and in uncertain regard and
Yes.
everything else.
Yeah.
It's
Answers.
genuinely good job. It's,
Yeah. We are
congratulations.
reaching somewhere. Hopefully,
Congratulations.
We are reaching
in some
somewhere.
time we'll be. Yeah.
Yes.
Congratulations to Jackie Richa
No
for being a
congratulations. Thank
dumb
you.
bitch.
No congratulations. Thank you.
Hopefully, maybe an episode, winning a
Maybe an
trance.
episode. Yes.
Maybe we do an episode later. It depends. To Sham
It
Babu
depends.
and Farmers of Anand.
Yes.
Manthan
Yeah.
for the win. It is coming in
Manthan.
Manthan
cinemas.
for the
Please
win.
go watch it if it is releasing near
It's
you.
coming in cinemas on
Manthan
2nd
is
of
an
Not
June in
coming in
amazing
Kolkata.
film.
Pondicherry, man. Not coming in
Please go watch
Pondicherry.
it. It is an amazing film. It is on YouTube as well, but in cinema it's going to be insane, a remastered version.
It's a 4K
Um,
restoration, right?
Yeah,
No.
yeah, yeah.
yes.
I expected,
Okay,
but
I
sadly, Pondicherry not coming. Even though
unfortunately we
PVR.
have to wrap the episode right away because I think we are reaching the
Two
limit
hour mark.
for the
Yeah.
live episode on this platform. Thank you so much for sticking around. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. We definitely recommend Furiosa. We discussed in total depth the
Highly
lore,
recommended.
the highly recommended film. We discussed every little bit, every tiny detail of the film, our experiences in theaters as well. Please do check out that film. We might do another live stream next week as well. A bunch of episodes might come out this week. Please make sure you subscribe us on YouTube. The podcast is now available on YouTube Music as well. Follow us on Spotify. It helps us reach out to more people. You can follow Adithyan on his Instagram page at Curious Adithyan, and on his podcast, which is Immersive Cinema Podcast. Frequent collaborators with us. Thank you so much for supporting us. This is the end of the episode. Khatam.